Exciting news out of Britain, but we're not talking about the news first because that comes in the second slide. We're here.
That's right.
We're here to talk about other things and then do the news.
Mm-hmm.
That's the format of the show, folks.
Thank
Yep.
you.
Yep.
I'm
Yeah.
gonna murder you.
We believe in a rigid workflow on this podcast.
We are very
Yeah, that's
very
what we
rigid,
believe in.
very very disciplined, very
Some might say
very on
pointy.
topic.
We are we're like Spartans. We're like monks. You know.
No tangents, just a solid curve of constant radius. Our podcast is a flat circle.
We stick to sports.
Yes.
Every slide that you will see for the next 4.5 hours will be the like stress strain graph of like steel.
Yes. Well, that has tangents in it.
No jokes. No jokes.
Fuck. Well, this looks cool. Whatever this is.
Yes.
It's a good time. Trust me.
Me when I hit the fucking vape. Thank you.
I don't. You need to learn to start dipping.
Welcome to Well, There's Your Problem podcast.
I wasn't done. I was done. I'm fucking with you.
A podcast about engineering disasters with
and
slides.
chewing tobacco.
I'm Justin Rosniak. I'm the person who's talking right now. My pronouns are he and him. Okay, go.
I am November Kelly. My pronouns are she and her, and when I consumed tobacco, I smoked because I was an adult and not a kind of
fuck yourself,
toothless
Nova
farmer. Yay, Liam.
All right. Well, now that I've been insulted for no reason.
Yeah.
Hi, I am Liam
Love you
McAnderson. Love you too. And I am the person currently stuffing myself down your chimney and giving you dipping tobacco like some sort of even fatter Santa Claus.
It's like,
Oh my
why
God,
did it have to be Dip Santa?
It's Dip Santa, baby.
It's Dinmus.
Yeah.
Every single present under the tree is in the shape of a dip tin.
Yes.
Yeah, and or buysnooze.com. Email me back, fellas.
And we have a guest.
Yeah,
Hi. Guess.
It's Kevin again. Speaking of tobacco, because I work in forest resources, I have a really fun dip and cigarette story. So I went up and I met this logger for the first time. He jumps out of his Ponzi, which is like a $1.5 million machine for cutting down trees. He's got a big like lower decker in, and he's got an upper decker in. So he's just got two horseshoes in his mouth, and he just taps on the side of his machine, just a cigarette. And he starts smoking a cigarette while he's got an upper and a lower decker. And I was like,
oh yeah, triple crowning. You've never done that?
No. But that man was an excellent logger.
Roz has seen me do that.
He rolls up his sleeves, it's just covered in patches.
I'm really trying to quit.
Two things. Firstly, what's your fucking pronouns?
Oh, sorry. I'm so sorry. So my pronouns are he and him.
Nice.
Apologies there. The pronoun checks are very important.
This man is the
mandatory.
Joker.
Absolutely
He
mandatory.
laughs when trees fall down.
Yeah, sometimes, yeah.
Listen, I don't want to go back in the forest. The fucking I got a workplace injury from this podcast doing the Prions episode.
I'm sorry about
Deer
that.
episode. It's all right. It fucked me up for a while, so I'm excited to get like depression off of this one. You know,
Right.
If I can be honest with you, when we were doing that, I was in the heart of my ecological depression. I've gotten much better since then. I went out and killed a bunch of invasive species this summer. I went on vacation, so we're doing much better. But it's a real thing you got to work through. I will update you on something you weren't looking for, but the Prion conference was excellent, and it was some of the most depressed drinking I've ever done.
Oh yeah.
Can I ask something, Devon? Whenever any of us get like particularly doomer, can you just like fade up a like 1 through 10% opacity image from First Reformed? Just to kind of like set the vibe and just kind of use your own judgment on like how First Reformed we're getting, you know?
I don't know what that is.
It's a Paul Schrader movie about how we're destroying the planet, and also Paul Schrader grew up as a Calvinist, which kind of all Paul Schrader movies are about.
Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah.
Although Leopold has a fantastic quote about this, which is like, when you learn ecology, you learn about the damaged world around you. I've just butchered it, but hey, what do?
Yeah, absolutely.
We butcher shit constantly. That's kind of our thing, actually.
Mm.
We butcher shit. People get mad at us. We ignore them, or sometimes we get drunk and don't ignore them.
Yeah.
I'm working on that one as we speak.
So my strategy for ecological depression is I just get depressed on Monday. Monday, I'm allowed to do everything sad and be depressed, and then the rest of the week I have to be happy. but I also don't work on CWD on Mondays.
Because it will depress you worse. You will get the like 200% opacity first
Yeah.
reformed screenshot.
So, what do you see on the screen in front of you is a forest,
You
which
know,
is on fire.
I'll say one thing. You see those orange spots? The kind of like
Yes.
orange red spots. If there's anything that's gonna denature the fuck out of a prion,
Big ass fire.
big ass fire.
We'll get into that.
Oh Jesus.
I'm not sure here whether I'm supposed to say it's not supposed to be like that or it is supposed to be like that, just less.
We broke
Whether
it.
it's supposed
That
to be
one.
like that is a
He's broken.
complicated
He's broken.
fucking issue. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's like nuance in here, which is the
Yeah.
problem. It's
Oh
nuance.
Jesus. Okay.
Hate
Well,
nuance.
there's not enough wine left in this bottle.
Yeah, I'm
but
pretty stupid.
Yeah.
It's fine. I have another one somewhere.
That's why I delayed 15 minutes because I knew I'd have to go to the beer store
Mhm.
Where'd you
after
go?
stupidly trying to improve myself by exercising today.
Yeah, but what'd you get?
Mm.
Oh, I got the very mega IPA from Yards.
Mm.
It's actually pretty good. I mean, the
Yeah,
can makes
okay.
it look like it's going to be bad, but it's
I
actually
know.
good.
No, Very Mega is decent.
Yeah.
The Bit Viper from them is not exceptionally good.
It
Well-
took me a long time to try this one because I was like, "There's no way that's a good beer," and then it turned out it was a good beer.
If I never drink another IPA again, it'll be too soon. Like for some
Oh,
reason.
that's right. You're a pussy. I forgot.
No. That's the correct opinion. November is correct about
Thank
this.
Oh,
you, because I,
fuck
listen, I
yourself,
like
Kevin
a
and Nova.
stout. I
Wow.
like beers,
tell.
right?
No,
But
no.
like the thing is, I don't know how a bunch of kind of like craft brewers tricked you all into drinking the kind of shit beer we designed to put on boats for a
Mr.
long time.
It's good.
Mr. Tree Guy here doesn't like a beer that tastes like a tree.
No, my work is like bitter enough. I don't need bitterness in my beer. I had a very nice glass before we started recording, a very nice glass of Untapped. It's a fine Pennsylvania whiskey with some maple syrup in there. Gorgeous.
Ooh.
And now I have a summer shandy because I'm a basic bitch.
Mm. I'm not gonna issue any pretensions about this just from the fact that I'm drinking wine. I'm drinking the most expensive wine that the small Tesco near me had, which was £8.50. There's a 2020 Montepulciano d'Abruzzo, which means I'm drinking COVID wine. I'm drinking wine that was like made by people wearing face masks. And let me tell you, you can't really taste the COVID, but you can really taste the oak. You know, which is something
that
that
the one-
winemakers
like
use
that.
to
That's
like.
what we like. We like
I
to see
do,
some nice
yeah,
oak
I
out
like
there.
that.
Is that the one with the really rustic looking label?
It does look pretty rustic, yeah. It's Tesco finest, mind you.
I used to drink I used to drink a nice Montepulciano. Had this like really rustic looking label. It was very nice. It was also relatively cheap.
I was back when
Right.
you drank wine.
Yeah. Well, sometimes wine would make its way into the house, and it'd be like, oh, I like this one.
I like an Italian wine. I like a Barolo. Is the thing. I don't.
Yeah, the
this
Italian
it's
wines
okay.
are definitely. I never really got a taste for anything else. You know, it's just like, okay, I'm drinking the Italian wine because that's where I know what I know.
Right. I
At least
sort
a
of
little
prefer
bit.
Big fat California cabs.
I was in Italy for work stuff, and I had some great Prosecco's. Like, that's what I was all about there.
Yeah, you know, the
Yeah,
Prosecco is
Prosecco
you know
guy
the thing.
too.
Yeah, I mean, at some point, it's like I could just buy Prosecco all the time. I don't know why I save it for special occasions.
You
Oh,
throw
I
a little
don't, dude.
limoncello in
It's-
there with some ice, and then you got a little limoncello spritz, and you're back in the
it's like,
piazza.
Oh,
it's a great time.
Spritz
Yeah.
is
Oh,
so
yes,
good.
please.
I'm a big Aperol Spritz girl.
It
Aperol
cost you
is-
like €3.
Oh, it was fantastic.
All right, welcome to Well, There's Your Problem podcast, a podcast about wine. Suck it, Riley.
a podcast of infinite leisure. I was
Yeah.
really transported by Kevin saying like you're back in the piazza. I was like,
Yeah.
that's
Oh,
wonderful.
oh
Yeah,
yes,
it's
how I
lovely.
would like that. Yes, please.
If I may just really piss off Riley for a moment here.
Please.
We've never met, so I'm just going to make him have a bad time. So the only wine in my house is there's a bottle of wine that my now wife and I got when we were in France right before our wedding. And then we have a box of New York wine. It's from the New York side of the of Erie.
Oh.
It's fine.
It's
Um,
the other side of the microclimate.
I once
The good side, the free side.
drank whiskey out of a box. It was scotch in a box, and it truly tasted just like piss.
Mm.
And it was just like, oh, this is the lowest I've been.
I will also come for Riley's microclimate. So the spotted lanternfly kills grapevines in the winter because it sucks out the the sugars in there that protect the vines over winter. And they are moving through Pennsylvania rapidly and spreading out, so that microclimate is under threat.
Oh. If you have like literally anything technological you ever want to talk about, please come on Trash Future because I need to see you destroy this man's conception of his microclimate.
We talked about I do carbon credits. I have the best idea for a carbon credit program too, by the way.
Ooh.
Yeah. We'll get it. Let's do the news.
Yeah. We should probably move along here at least a little bit.
Oh, fuck yourself, bud.
It's so much better not to talk about this.
You get a couple of glasses of wine and me. The podcast is 6 hours long. What do you want from me?
Oh, yeah. Oh, I'm going to do the bomb callers. Oh, you guys are easily distracted. My name's Nova Kelly. Yeah.
Do as I say, not as I do.
This is why I knew I needed to go to the beer store before and not after the
I
podcast.
don't have shit. I'm going to, after we record
It's time
this,
for the goddamn news.
I'm gonna dunk myself in Scott. I wasn't done.
I love the ability to just like turn that on you, like a kind of like Michael Moore at the Oscars being like the Iraq War is bad. It's just, oh, you wanna say some shit to me? You wanna say some shit to me right now?
You don't have to be like this.
But I
the
choose
line,
to.
Oh, I know.
the line,
Go down.
the 170-kilometer long linear city being built
Mhm.
in Saudi Arabia as
What
part of
happened to it,
NEOM.
Roz?
The line, you'll never believe this. The line has been shortened to the nub.
Oh.
No.
This kind of walkable mixed-use urban development is actually impractical to build in most Saudi municipalities.
Yes, they are settling from building the world's longest building to, well, still building the world's longest building, but considerably shorter.
Yeah, less of a flex about it. They've cut it
Yeah.
down to like 2.6 kilometers or something like that.
Yeah, and the only things that like come close, if you exclude like the Great Wall of China, it's that big shitty Nazi resort they never finished.
Oh, Prora. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
On the Baltic. Yeah.
Yeah, sure. We're all
uh,
smart, intelligent, know these things.
Yeah, and then like
Listen, I
know.
don't know that it's something to be very proud of that you just know off the dome the name of the like Nazis doomed Baltic Sea resort.
I think like the second like longest building is Karl Marxhof in Vienna. So
Well, you know, it's a real sort of like night
war
and
of
day.
ideologies.
Yeah. Although I feel like if you stretch it out, like I feel like there's a bit of like an intestinal thing. Like you know how your intestines are like fucking 170 kilometers long if you like stretch them out, right? But they double back over themselves.
that's a lot of intestines,
It
Alice.
feels
November.
like,
you
it
should
feels
you
like
should get that
some
checked out.
days. I literally am having that checked out. I think if you just do by like length of corridors, probably like the Pentagon is like probably stupid long, right?
What
Yeah.
about that one really big building? Was like Romania or something like that?
Oh,
Presidential
we did an
The-
episode on it with Adam
the
something.
palace
Yeah.
of the palace of the people. I mean, that's just big. That's not long.
Mm.
Oh, that's what they say about me.
Yeah,
It's
I
not.
could
It's
sort
not,
of
it's not
see how
long,
you
it's
could
girthy.
unwrap the Pentagon and make it long.
Unwrap the Pentagon.
Yeah, I mean, if you're like,
9/11
exactly.
2 is when a bunch of like situationist terrorists straighten out the Pentagon.
Well, didn't the Saudis already try
It's
that?
like the Gordian knot, but worse.
oh my God, they
Yeah.
linearized the Pentagon.
Would have
They just
required
sort
a
of-
like
they-
huge number of planes to do that.
No, they turned it on its side and rolled it out like a spool.
Yeah, I just have the entire Pentagon like on my back, like one of the old like field telephone like wire spools. Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, so it seems like things are not going well in Saudi because they were gonna do all of this stuff and it was gonna be like Vision 2030. It was gonna be like Silicon Valley. Every tech startup was gonna be there, and a bunch of like European rimless glasses wearing architects took their money,
Yes.
laughed in their faces.
Black turtlenecks, you know.
Yeah. And then as they kind of predicted and as we predicted, there wasn't enough money even for the Saudis to do this, and they started having to borrow money to do it, which they want to do. And it's not going to happen. They will have like displaced and killed a bunch of people in order to dig one ditch.
Right.
I
And then
am
the
Sounds
ditch
about
is going to fill with water, and then the ditch is going to collapse.
I am genuinely surprised at how far they got with site work, though. My God, I mean, they did dig that ditch.
They done dig it.
They done dug the ditch. They done.
Well, I mean, one thing you can say about Wahhabism is it makes the ditches run on time. Like,
Apparently, yeah.
I just
it's
ordered shorts online, not just now, but and then
Uh-huh.
the email confirmation was you done did it, and it made me want to throw up in my fucking mouth.
don't give
Yeah,
me a
you done
cutesy
did it.
confirmation email.
Yeah,
It's really
it said
annoying.
your order has been shipped. Thanks, fat ass.
I
Hurt me a little.
you're like your 3XL shorts are on the way. Have you considered making some changes to your diet?
They're
Oh, God.
2XL. They're 2XL. I have little chicken legs. I promise.
I'm
All my
kidding
weight's
myself.
in my tummy.
I'm kidding myself. I can fit into a 2XL. I'm right there with you, brother.
You gotta- You gotta start eating Krabby Patties.
I'm gonna start eating less is what I'm gonna
Yeah.
start eating. Yeah, I guess it's easy to motivate a bunch of like feckless Europeans if the threat is I will give you like $1 billion, and if you fuck with me, I will cut your arms and legs off.
Oh, actually, I have a fun story here. So when I was in Italy, I was in the bar.
I like the idea of you like jumping
When I
up and
was in
down.
Italy, yeah,
Ooh,
I saw the Saudis like cut a guy's arms and legs off.
Close. So I was in this bar, and it was like a little after midnight. So they were just getting going for Italians. But there are these two Aussies who are just drunk as skunks. And I was chatting with them. And you know why they were there?
Hmm.
One of them was selling like cooking equipment to the other guy who worked for Neom.
No
So
shit.
Neom, the loss
No
of Neom
way.
is going to cost me a beer the next time I go to Italy because they bought me a beer. I'm
There-
personally affected
no-
by
no-
this news story. I'm saddened to hear this.
Oh, Kevin.
yeah. Thoughts and prayers with
Thoughts
Kevin
and
at this
prayers,
trying
yes.
time.
My
T's and
sobriety
P's, if you will.
continue on, unfortunately.
97-year-old Saudi embassy still mutilates defectors the old-fashioned way.
Boy. Oh, very good.
Thank you.
I mean, I don't think they're going to build a full line, but I could imagine them eventually extending it another mile.
You think that
Yeah.
they're gonna build like one block of line, put a big like Saudi flag on it, open a Balenciaga
Call it
store,
a
and
day.
declare victory?
Yeah.
Actually, that could be it. And then they have like line phase 2, and then they'll realize, one of the big conceits here is they have that hyperloop in the basement, and like, well, that's not real. So
that's not happening. Clearly.
yeah,
Don't you mean diaper poop?
yeah,
Please
Yeah,
call
the-
it by its proper name.
Yeah, the
diaper poop in the
Yeah,
basement.
mhm.
Yeah.
Well, maybe they can run the guy who's in charge of the line through that a couple of times to see if it works.
Mm,
Ah,
yeah.
Only the line reduces one European architect to a soup-like homogenate in under 30 seconds.
Fucking.
I just don't like
murder.
Europeans.
Mm,
Besides
We're
Gareth.
gonna
legally, I'm not
pause-
European now. I don't think Gareth is either because we Brexited. We're
yeah.
like Atlanticists, We're anti-woke and we're our own thing and we're a freewheeling buccaneering nation that doesn't have to
We're
answer
gonna-
to nobody.
Yeah, all right. You're welcome for the Ledley sack, by the way. If you could.
Yeah, we're gonna need another one of those in about 5 minutes.
We should be doing that in Ukraine right now.
We're gonna introduce Bjark Ingels to a vacuum environment and watch him expand to the size of his ego. Yes. In other news,
Yeah, this is the
the-
reason why I'm drinking the most expensive wine in the small Tesco. I don't know if you know this, but the United Kingdom of Great Britain and Northern Ireland is
North of Ireland.
and the occupied north of Ireland. Thank
That's
you.
right. Thank you.
It's
they just released something called the Cass Report or the
yes,
Cass Review. I couldn't think of a different picture.
yeah, it's more
yeah.
like the ass review because it's
The
bad.
ass review,
Uh,
exactly.
it's-
Now that's
Uh,
decades of professionalism there.
And,
all of you are now children until you're 25. Did I read that right?
Yeah,
Because
yeah.
adults can't make their own
Specifically,
choices despite
yeah,
being able to
the
do it.
wedge
Adults-
issue is
Adults cannot consent to medical procedures.
Okay, go fuck yourself.
So this was an inquiry into like healthcare for young trans people, right? And
Sure.
essentially what happens is if you go into that with a huge amount of bias and discard all the evidence and then say, hey, there's no evidence this works, then the outcome is a report that is just really, really bad science more than anything. It doesn't hold up on like scientific merits, even in like a sort of bad faith way, and it's just full of like irrelevant bullshit. There's a bit in there that says it's like impossible to tell what sex you're assigned at birth if you're like 5'7" specifically. This is not a joke. That's like
What?
verbatim. It's just it.
It rejected every study that was not double blind, which is not something you can do with hormone therapy.
I really want to do
Because
this.
it's not ethical.
What?
Yeah.
B, people will find out that they're not on hormones.
yeah, it's like you kind of get some obvious effects. For me, you know, the big one was like I started growing tits, right? Difficult to double
Yeah.
blind that, but also unethical, as
Sure
you say.
can't try.
Yeah, well, I want this to be applied to other things and be like, you're actually like not allowed to do like studies of like developmental linguistics because there's no good double blind evidence, right? And until you lock a bunch of kids in a fucking like linguistics department labyrinth and raise them without language, you aren't allowed to draw any conclusions from this.
Yeah, so people have tried doing that, and that's how the Children and Youth Services comes to visit you.
Yeah,
That
it's
was
also-
also
yeah.
like that was one of the problems with trying to test drugs for treating AIDS. Was people tried to work out if they had the placebo or the real drug, so they could give it to other people who had AIDS,
Yeah, it's
and we're in the study. I mean,
it's not ethical to do these things, you know. And
Wait. I have a solution here. You ready for this one? You
Yeah.
take everybody who's on this committee and you put them in the double blind trial.
Or guillotine them.
oh, there you go. Then that'd be
the
funny.
good news is that the Labour Party has already agreed to like
Oh my
implement
God.
everything that's in it.
Fuck off.
And there's another study, another review that's in the early stages now into adult trans healthcare, all of which is to say, get me out of this fucking country, please, God. They are gonna try and make it illegal for me to live here. Oh well, at least maybe I can go to the United States.
About that one. That's not great.
Yeah.
You're
And
fine
Canada-
if you're in a major city.
Canada's going to try to murder you. You always have a place with us, Nova.
Yeah,
We have a
yeah.
spare bedroom.
Heavily armed spare bedroom in Philadelphia, please and thank you.
Yeah.
Oh, that apartment opened up in the Drake with the huge terrace.
We could all live there.
Yeah, exactly. Well,
The
that terrace
ter-
is fucking huge.
Well, there's your problem, Hype House. I mean, subscribe to the
Yeah.
Patreon so we
I-
can afford it, please.
It is only $6,667 a month
What?
Which- for the location and the size and the height.
Yeah.
For
Yeah.
that kind of money, you could get like a studio, no pets, no students, bills not included in like outer London.
I was talking to
Jesus.
Jay. He was like, if I had a roommate, that would be less than my rent in San Francisco
Jesus.
or
Oh, we'll
Oakland.
get the
Excuse me.
housing.
Yeah.
Yeah. I just it's the thing about British transphobia is right is that this country does its level best to socially murder you for being trans, and the only thing to do about it is to ignore them and transition anyway. You can get your own hormones off the internet. You should do that. Don't waste any time with the NHS because it's useless anyway, and it's about to get worse. Obviously this is highly precarious and it doesn't feel great, but I think it's ultimately going to be a futile effort, right? I don't think you can legislate or morally mandate trans people out of existence. It's just going to make things frustrating and undignified and more precarious for a while, but in the end you have to believe that we will win. And yeah, you know, that's the thing that I have faith in, because like
You have to.
yeah, and these freaks and assholes cannot be allowed to triumph, and I think all of their victories will turn to ashes in time.
Can I find some bright side of this? Well, some bright side of like trans
Please,
folks
yeah.
in England.
just one time.
I've been listening to this small podcast. You may know of it, Kill James Bond. It's been excellent for in my job, I work with a lot of young folks who are figuring themselves out, and it's really helped me to interact with them and help them in their figuring themselves out. So there's always podcasts out there which are very helpful.
That's true, you know, and it's kind of win-win for me doing those podcasts because the people supporting those podcasts go some way to like help insulate me personally from the worst bits of this, which I, ultimately feel guilty and insecure about, but is very much appreciated.
Fantastic. I can't say enough good things about it.
I think the thing is, right, like I empathize with you, Justin, because like I want to move to London. Another thing that the Patreon is enabling me to do, right? And I do this in the fact that, despite the fact that like England is appreciably worse than Scotland on a lot of trans stuff, and also just England itself and the UK generally pretty bad. But I love it, and I don't want to live anywhere else. So sometimes you just have to stay where you want to be.
We have to move to the merger of the urban and the rural, the very beating heart of coal country Hazleton.
I'm not moving to Hazleton.
I mean, I gotta move to London and stay in the UK because like all the other stuff about like, oh, I should flee the country without learning another language, fucking to where? Like, where is English speaking in the world that isn't having a kind of like Nazi reaction right now?
That's a good
How's
point.
New Zealand doing?
Bad.
Oh, shit.
I have some Kiwi friends, and the answer is not great.
Oh, okay.
What about
that's out.
what about like which
Guyana,
one is the
fuck
one?
it.
Yeah, Guyana, exactly.
Fucking throwing my lot with Guyana. Hell yeah. I want to go to
Costa
Georgetown.
Rica, that was the English colony island? Or which
Belize.
Belize. All right, Belize.
I do think South America might be the move if you're looking to like maximize your kind of like survivability, despite a way higher trans murder rate. I think in the long term, if like start learning Spanish, buddy.
You could move to the Falklands. And
that's true. That's true. I mean, anyone
no
tries to hate
does.
crime me in the Falklands, I see him like coming through a perfectly flat, unforested field that's about like 15 miles long.
I do think if you decided to martyr yourself for the cause of the Falklands, they will build a statue for you.
I think the time is right for a trans femteri pack. Yeah.
Yeah, you need the trans autonomous oblast.
Yeah,
I would honestly like. Don't fucking tempt me. We've seen how like movements of oppressed minorities towards taking nationhood off someone else has been going lately. You try that shit, and like in 100 years' time, the trans autonomous oblast is like ordering airstrikes against the oppressed they them community. Like,
yeah, that's a good point. That's a good point. They've declared war on the bisexuals.
I'm not gonna be like the trans femme Zev Jabotinsky. Like I don't want to do that,
AMAB, but it's just a signed mother of all bombs at birth.
I love my community, and I don't want to handcuff it to the many war crimes you are forced to do if you impose territoriality on it.
Yeah, that's fair.
All right. We have to make trans Mars.
Suck that shit, Elon.
Yeah, fuck you, Elon.
Yeah, well, the problem is then you find out that there is like indigenous Martian life we're displacing like 5 minutes into it, and the whole cycle starts up over again.
Dude. No, humanity's destiny is the stars. I am absolutely subjugating whatever life forms are on Mars.
I
don't care how intelligent they are.
Genocide on the Martians.
I am doing unlimited genocide on the Martians. This is humanity's destiny. Yeah, no, I am. Whatever an ultra-nationalist for Earth is, that's me. Count me the fuck up.
I don't think there's anything more substantial there than extremophile bacteria. You'll be fine.
I think
this
is
extremophile bacteria are 10 feet tall and intelligent. This is gonna suck.
I think this is a good point for me to mention the thing I forgot to mention, which is all of these views are my own. These have nothing to do with my employer. Do not find my employer.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, you're not in trouble. We're in trouble.
Yes.
I haven't even said anything that spicy, and I'm more depressed about this than I have been in ages. I ended up like avoiding the news for the whole day, like catastrophizing, spiraling, retweeting a bunch of horrifying shit, and then going to play the like new Suzerain DLC, which is really good, by the way. I highly recommend that game. That's a little endorsement for you there.
Oh.
Pretty good.
Like, I was like, I'm gonna play some video games today, but my mouse wheel is still broken.
You can.
That's your stupid fault.
You can't say I'm thinking about going on a tour of a $6,000 a month apartment, and then also say my mouse is broken and I don't know what to do about it. That's a disconnect between income and personal self-sufficiency.
He just
previously
won't.
only seen in Hungarian Emperors.
He knows what to do about it. He just won't.
Yes. No, I did order a new backup
Oh my
mouse because
God,
I intend to get this one running again.
You are my
It's a
best
nice
friend.
mouse.
I have followed you across 1,000 universes, and in every one, I'm going to punch you in the nuts.
I really love that. There was someone who replied to us on Twitter that's like, "Do you think Justin and Liam find each other in every timeline,
We
in
do.
every universe?"
We
And
know.
I'm like, yeah,
Probably.
yeah, absolutely. I think that's what the movie Everything Everywhere All at Once was about. You know,
What was that shitty Marvels movie that was like that?
Madame Web.
No.
One of them is Madame,
no,
and the other
it-
one is Web.
What was the one with it had like Kumail Nanjiani who got like ripped for it? It's a terrible
Oh
movie.
Jesus!
It's like that
Moon
one.
Knight. Was that it? Was that a TV show?
Or there was a straight to Netflix one with like Scarlett
Oh.
Johansson that was also
that
this,
Marvel
but bad.
Eternals? Was that
Jesus.
Eternals?
Oh yeah, Eternals. Yeah, it's like Eternals.
This is
Yeah, sure. Which
On
one of them
our-
is the rich
on our-
Camille Nanjiani?
on our
Probably
very
Devin.
focused,
If we're gonna be honest, it's
no
probably Devin.
tangents podcast.
Go fuck yourself, bud.
That was the goddamn news.
Hey, so is the recording still working for you guys?
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, because
It's-
mine's showing invalid date, but I think it's
That's-
fine.
That's weird, but it looks fine on my end.
Yeah.
So it's just keep your local recording going and save it.
Yes.
You know?
I did a podcast where they used Riverside. I don't know if you guys have tried different software.
Our
yeah.
knowledge and belief, Zencastr is the worst software to exist apart from all the others.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, that podcast
Ringing
was
endorsement.
yeah. The other podcast was very high production budget. I'm not going to lie to you.
Yeah, I've
Can you-
used
can you-
Riverside
I mean,
for
we-
Sickos Committee.
We are not high production values.
Yeah. I would say the name of it here, but I would also dox myself in a second.
Yeah, no, you're fine.
I was sitting on a bench by the river earlier
Yeah.
today, and I wasn't
say
able to
we're not
record
high
anything.
production values. Devin adds a lot of production values.
Yeah, Devin does that a lot of production value. We love you,
Yeah.
Devin.
It's like production value on the like us side, you know.
Right. Well,
on the
Devin does a really
recording
good
side.
joke of really good visual gags.
Oh yeah.
Oh, yeah. No,
Yeah.
Devin's fantastic. I got nothing bad to say about them. Fantastic.
Why are we looking at the vice president of the
Oh,
United States?
yeah.
declining?
Sorry. I got distracted with other
No,
podcasts.
please.
I swear I'm not cheating on you guys.
We were-
I
we were-
swear.
we were
We're
all-
hanging out
we
the
were
big
all-
banner. Welcome home, cheater.
Yeah.
We were all distracted by thinking about Devin.
That's very true.
Yeah.
Um,
I'm going to say something that I'm going to regret saying.
Oh,
I
boy.
want to disgust our listeners a little bit. I want them to turn this off in anger.
Okay.
Kamala Harris could get it.
I
Well, none of us
Kamala
fell out of the
Harris.
coconut tree, you
Get
know.
it.
Well, that's exactly what's happening here. We all live in a
Shake
context.
my coconuts, Mrs. Vice President.
not to infantilize her, but I don't think it's ethical for a woman as like permanently high as she appears to be to get it.
Oh, that's fair. Give me that shit they gave to Pat Mahomes in the Super Bowl 57 halftime. Yeah.
I
Well, they did
think
hit him with some good. I don't know what it was, but it was something great.
yeah, whatever it is, the 0.01% healthcare is something else, man. I've talked about this before. I think I talked about it when Trump got COVID, and they
Oh, yeah, you did. Yeah,
they
yeah.
juiced him up with the this is the drug that makes the president not die. Whatever it is, Kamala Harris is on the mental health version of that. You know?
Yes.
Maintenance dose. Yeah.
Yeah,
That
she's
would be
she's
fantastic.
the drug regimen, the drug combination that makes you feel like that.
They must be giving the same thing to the lady who runs Twitter now.
Oh, Lindy Accarino.
Oh,
yeah,
yeah,
sure,
she's
whatever her
just
name is.
posting. She's just posting shit that's engagement numbers are up with hashtag metrics. It's all happening on X, the Everything app, and then Elon is posting great replacement.
Just gas the
shit.
Jews 88. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's talk about the episode a little bit here.
Go fuck yourself, bud.
We the thing is, we could cut this, and we choose not to because we know
No.
that people like it.
I'm not
Well,
going
yeah,
to.
no, obviously you don't.
Except for
cut
the
this.
people
That
who
would be
whine
silly.
and are just like, when are they going to get to that? Never.
No. If you post a comment, you've already lost.
Yeah,
Mm.
sorry.
Even if
just,
it's a good one. Even if we like it.
I do like the
living
people who are
rent-free.
I do like the people who are just like, this is just for engagement. Have a good day. I love those weird fucks.
Okay, all right. So we live in a context, unfortunately. So
Yes.
Fuck.
when we discuss fire today, everyone is thinking about that big satellite photo that we saw before of oh, shit's on fire right now. Oh, well, that's crazy. This is a new thing that has never happened before in the history of the Western United States. Insane. Actually, we have a context around us, and we simply exist within it. There are a
You
couple.
didn't fall out of the sequoia tree.
No, not in this. Yeah, yeah. I will also agree that coconut trees are not trees; they're grasses. And fuck them grasses. So
I've just walked into a beef I didn't even know that you had.
come on, look.
Put the lime in the coconut. It's just Kevin setting fire to a coconut grove.
Look, I am a forester and a wildlife biologist. When am I going to get back on an engineering podcast? Everything is going to catch strays. Feral horses, I'm coming for you and the burrows next. Watch out. Yeah, that is a mass helicopter initiated death I would like to discuss later. We'll get there. Okay, so
You fortunate son.
yeah, it'd be sick. All right, so we're talking about forest fire in the Western United States and how it's kind of like crazy right now. So fire has always happened in the Western United States. It's not a bad thing. What's bad is what's happening right now. Hence the context. All right, Roz, give me the next slide here.
Gotcha.
All right.
Ooh, triangles.
Yeah. So if you're bitch made, you think about fire in the fire triangle, which is oxygen, heat, and fuel. Bitch made shit. All right. So this is just like, oh, look, my candle's on fire. Wow, isn't that neat? Oh man, I wonder if I reduce the fuel loading in this forest, is that gonna like potentially stop fire?
Me doing double award science.
Yeah. Yeah. And then maybe Alice, you like finish your BS in environmental science. You're like, oh,
Yeah.
we should start looking at like the stand health and see if a stand is just a bunch of trees that are similar species in a geographical location.
JoJo has?
I don't know. I don't know who that is. So that's your next level is like, okay, so what happened that caused this wildfire?
Curiously, this one's also in a triangle.
Everything's a triangle here. There's a power shape here.
It has a very powerful shape. Yes.
Yeah. Also, foresters are not the most creative people, and neither are fire scientists. So, yeah, why not fucking do a triangle? All right. So then, now we're starting to think at the level of like, yeah, like this is what I'm talking about. We got some good stuff going on here. This is our context here. The fire doesn't just happen because like, we have an unlike put out campsite. There's stuff that contributed to this fire. There's a lot of fine fuels in the ground. The weather was right for it. We got some wind going, which we'll get to later. Think the conditions were right. But if we, use our big brain here, we can look at, the fire regime. Like, what is this place supposed to be? And like, should this fire have happened to begin with?
I have somehow a paradigm already in my head for understanding this. You know what this mirrors? This is tactical, operational, and strategic. Is what you're talking about here. You're like your tactical guys like this is why this is on fire. Your operational guys like this is why like this bit is on fire, and your strategic guys like this is why there are fires.
Yes.
I was told by Smokey the Bear that only you can prevent forest fires.
Yeah, and I would
fires.
very much like to say to Smokey the Bear, October is bear season. Come around, buddy. Come around. I got my license. Where you at, dog? If the hunter success rate is 1% in Pennsylvania, I intend to be in that 1%. Smokey the Bear has fucked around enough, and it's time for him to find out.
We do not give us T-shirt ideas that will also get us a cease and desist. That is, Smokey the Bear is property of the like U.S. Department of the Interior or something. We will
actually,
get yelled at.
Interior. Someone did not study their early
USFS? Question mark?
Forest Service's agriculture, thanks to Gifford Pinchot. The GIF, in his ultimate wisdom, decided that Forest Service should be within agriculture, so that way management continues to happen. Well, I agree with that. Management does need to continue to happen. I do think this is my real. Again, I'm not going to be on here again, so I'm going to get my finite opinions.
Might be if you want.
What are you going to have me talk about? Whatever. But anyway,
what if you want? Were you unless you're planning to get eaten by Smokey the Bear? Like, if you want to come back on, we will have you on.
Oh, sick. Yeah, I keep it strapped, Smokey, so don't sleep on me. Anyway.
If we had 45 minutes for a single joke, I would tell the Friar joke, but I'm not going to do that.
Just do the setup now, put the punchline in at the end in like 5 hours' time.
I'm not going to do it. I also need to re-up my long-form jokes. I haven't done them in a while.
It's true. It's been a hot minute.
Okay, so we'll get to Smokey later and why he's catching not strays. These are very intentional, and he deserves this. All right, so fire happens. It happens for a lot of reasons. We're going to dig through those reasons in a second. All right, next slide. I don't know what I was talking about before we started threatening Smokey the Bear, but I'm right too.
You were talking about
Oh
the
yeah, Gifford Pinchot. Okay, so Gifford Pinchot he was famously governor of Pennsylvania, blah blah blah. So he puts the Forest Service when it's created in the U.S. Department of Agriculture, so that way management happens. Right to make sure management happens. USDA probably not the right agency for it. Forests work on a different time scale than like row crops. So there's my slight beef with the GIF.
So what should it be? Like interior?
Probably its own thing. Probably its own thing. Like with with Fish and Wildlife Service, probably a separate service. It's kind of like its own thing. I don't know. Interior's got some issues with it too. So BLM's got some problems. Same with
fucking
I
don't know. The thing is, like, I really like when a US like cabinet level department like has something it shouldn't. I was a huge like opponent of the like Homeland Security reforms because I think it was funny that every department had cops, and I think it was great that the Secret Service was Treasury for no reason, other than history. So I think just fuck it, like
They
Treasury.
deal with counterfeiting. They have reason to be there.
I guess so. Give it to Treasury. Give it to like HUD. Really fuck around.
You got to give it to a department with like a unreasonable amount of authority and ability to cause violence.
Oh, energy.
Energy.
Department of
Yeah,
Energy.
Department of Energy.
The
Yeah.
Department of Energy. Yes.
I have a friend who works at Los Alamos National Labs, and she does forestry out there because it turns out that like you don't want the nukes burning down in a forest fire.
Yes.
Yeah. All right. Sorry to
Just
her.
a
I
bunch of,
kind of
Almost happened recently.
I was gonna say.
I mean, it was only like it got within a mile. It's not almost.
Yeah.
It's a mile.
It's a mile. Yeah.
Yeah, I did get some nice pictures of that happening. It did actually burn in 2008. There was a small chunk of fire that got onto it in 2008, but it's 40,000 acres of land. Like, yeah, it's not the nukes. It's just close to the nukes.
Department of Energy Protective Forces being like, "What the fuck? I can't shoot the Mark 19 at the forest fire. It's not working."
Okay, so here we have a beautiful fire regime map. So fire happens. It happens a lot. Happens for a lot of reasons. We're going to discuss some of those reasons. So this is our natural fire history, how things should be behaving. So if we look at the Western United States, we'll see that most of the Great Plains should be burning up like pretty frequently. So we'll see their replacement severity. That means like it's killing all the trees. Yeah, it's because it's the Great Plains. There are like 4 trees out there. I almost took a job in North Dakota, and they were like, "Yeah, so here are your 6 trees that you're in charge of." And I was like, "Nope, no, don't need this. I'm actually too young to dive headfirst into a wood chipper, so we'll move on." So you have a big belt of high severity fire, so everything burns down pretty frequently because grass likes to burn. It burns real hot and fast. Then if you look at the Intermountain West, so Roz, would you mind just like for our non-Americans who are not familiar with geography, just kind of highlighting the Intermountain West over there?
It's like
Yeah,
over
do like
here,
a nice blue
right?
circle.
Yeah. So over there, so we have some fire that happens. It's not big. It's kind of like ground fire happens a lot. If we look in California, kind of your Central Valley, coastal, your chaparral system, you got a lot of fire pretty frequently.
Except for this weird green patch.
Yeah. So you have some really interesting like coastal stuff that happens. If you go up the coast there, you run into like temperate rainforests, like up into like Astoria. I also almost had a job out there, and that was like the Super Bowl of forestry, man. We were on like $6 million harvests every day. Jesus.
Ooh.
Jesus. That's some money in them trees there, boy. But yeah, money does grow on trees there. So those are really high site index. It's really wet all the time. You're not lighting that on fire if you want to. Now, if we look at California, we do have this thing on the East Coast. If we look at the East Coast, it's kind of tan, like orangish
Salmon
too.
color, kind of.
Yeah, sure, whatever. Yeah. So the East Coast also has a similar fire regime. If we look at particularly the Southeastern United States, and kind of like if we want to be similar in our like mountainous, we can kind of get the Appalachians.
Right.
Like in like South Carolina down through Georgia into Alabama and kind of Mississippi in there. So the Apps have a similar fire frequency as most of California. And
And
so
yet you don't hear about Appalachia burning down all the time.
You don't
Apart from
hear
the coal
about it, but I
mines.
have seen it.
we will discuss this.
Yeah.
Okay. Mm-hmm.
Okay. So
Bear in mind, I am deeply ignorant and also drunk.
Well, Gatlinburg did burn down one time, and you know what? I've been to Gatlinburg. Not that
Don't
great.
say
There
it.
was just a big fire in the Shenandoah Valley.
Yeah.
I could see like over the ridge the last time I was in Roanoke.
Yeah, so fire should happen on the East Coast. It should be much like California, though different vegetation. We should be burning, every couple of years. It should be pretty low intensity, so your leaf litter gets removed. You kind of cycle some nutrients through there. It's fine. It's fine.
Yeah.
How you make these fire maps is really interesting. Let me delve into this for a second. So you have, you do social history. So you talk to the people who used to live there. So you talk to the First Nations, Indigenous people, and you get their stories. You also take tree cores. You get fire scarring history. They go into mines and they take timber sections out of those mines and they look at like, okay, this mine timber was placed in like 1812, and so we can figure out when how old this thing is. And there are some really great.
Harvest a bunch of old jeans from in there.
Yep. Oh yeah. Well, while you're down there, why not? It makes some real
Talk
money.
about denim harvesting at some point. Yeah.
You gotta watch out for the spider spawner, though.
Yeah, the creepers down there. It's been years since I played Minecraft.
No, they've improved it now. The mine shafts have a spider spawner in them.
The thing is, I don't play I play Minecraft until I see one thing that makes me scared, and then I quit and don't play Minecraft for 10 years. So I played it like twice.
I'm writing a book, so I don't have time to play video games right now.
Wow.
stupid.
Okay.
Don't do
really,
that.
really just making me feel like shit now.
Yeah, don't write books. They're silly. Okay, so the Eastern United States has a similar fire frequency for a lot of it as the Western United States. So we should be seeing fire across the Southeast. Why is the Southeastern United States not burning as frequently or as largely as the North, California and the West Coast? I mean,
We found a metric the Southeastern US does well on.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah, and we'll talk about why it does well there. All right, next slide, please. So that was fire regime. Let's talk about fire intensity and what fire looks like. All right, so here we have some trees. Do we know what these trees are? Don't read the notes. Don't read the notes. It's cheating.
Okay, yeah. I got a hand over my face so I can't see the notes.
Spruce.
This looks like this looks
better.
like a really big
Douglas
kind
fir?
of tree.
Nope, not Doug firs out
Scots
west. This is
pine?
Jack pine. This is Jack pine. Scotch pine's close though. So this
You
is
gotta-
Jack pine on the bottom and then eucalyptus above it. So what we're talking about here is our various plants' fire adaptations and how they want to deal with fire. So some plants are fire adapted, so they want fire to happen. So here our eucalyptus emits oil, so the world will burn around it, and it burns really hot. And
These things explode, right?
yeah, basically, yeah.
This guy up here is the eucalyptus.
Yes, yeah, correct.
Okay, yeah.
Okay, so you see that nice shedding bark there, how it's curled in. You get some good airflow in there if you're gonna, introduce a fire.
Oh, it wants to burn.
Yeah, it wants to see the world
Second
hard.
bottle of
It
wine.
does the Terminator thing,
Yeah. Right. No, exactly. Yeah. Unironically, yeah. It wants to destroy the world around it. It wants to burn everything really
Same.
hot.
Same.
Yeah. Okay. All right. So it wants the world to burn really hot. And so it emits oils and has a shedding bark. That's what it wants to do. Oak are fire adapted, so their leaves curl up. And so that way you get good air movement underneath them. These are fire adapted species. They want fire to happen. Jack pine is a great, example of serotinous and serotonaity. So we think of serotonaity in a, kind of a spectrum. So you have like, more or less adapted species, and individuals are more and less adapted. Well, that sounds great.
I was about to say, yeah.
Sorry,
For once, it's
excuse me.
not a can opening. Although, that being said,
Oh wait, I'll get on this. Hold on. Where are we at?
very nice.
Well
Oh,
done.
thank you. All right, so we have serotonaty that we're discussing. So these pine cones will stay on the tree even after the tree is dead, and they'll stay closed
These
for like
guys,
20 years,
Oh,
and they'll open up in heat. Now, some of that heat can be fire. We can have like on the right. All right, the world has burned down, and now we have a great seed bank for jack pine. We have bare mineral soil. We have lots of nutrients and lots of light. Going to be real happy there. But also, if it's a nice hot day and you're like above a bare rock on the Canadian Shield because you're jack pine and you're a shitty tree that lives in shitty sites, you're going to pop open there because it lives in a shitty place, to be real honest. No hate to jack pine. It just is adapted for bad places. So these are
This is
fire
like,
adapted
Same.
species.
I live in Britain.
All those like right wing prepper guys are like, I'm going to homestead on the Canadian Shield.
Well,
get
good
to
luck,
that.
assholes.
You can't do that.
No.
That doesn't work.
No. Well, ask me about the heat dome.
What is the heat dome?
It's I mean, so you if you're aware of the Canadian Shield, you'll have seen it, bits of it now because of climate change. One of the stranger weather manifestations of it is it just sits in like baking, sort of broiling heat for like months at a time now, completely unpredictably. It's cool.
Cool.
Mm,
Great.
that's fun. I love climate change. It's
Also,
so
there's
fun.
there's like half an inch of topsoil and then solid rock.
Yeah, I used to guide trips out of Atikokan, Canada. Shout out to Atikokan.
Mm.
And that's Canadian Shield, and it's like where you transition from northern hardwoods into boreal forest, and like it's really cool if you're canoeing, but it like sucks to be a plant there.
If you want to make that arable, you got to like dig up the entire Midwest and move all the soil up there.
Yeah, yeah,
What if we took the Midwest and put it somewhere else?
land back, but for Canada.
Yeah.
Losing
got
the
some-
War of 1812 210 years later, yes.
I got some bad news about the amount of topsoil left. Period. I feel like, you know.
Yeah. I work with NRCS; they're fine.
Mhm.
Okay, so fire is really good if you're adapted for it because you have these wonderful, like on the right here, with these great sites, lots of open soil, lots of free nutrients. Perfect if you're adapted for it. So next slide, please.
Yes.
So there are other plants that are fire resistant. So they don't want the world to die. They want to live through the fire. So here we have a great example of red pine, Pinus resinosa for our botany heads out here. So it's adapted for frequent, surface level fire, as we can see on the right. It wants to see some fire come through and kill lots of stuff that's not red pine. So its needles are kind of long and resinous. They have good stuff in there for a light fire. But you'll also see there's not a lot of low branches. The branches kind of foxtail up, so that way they're moving away from fire. So and it's got really thick bark. So it's a fire adapted species. It wants there to be fire. It wants it to be low level, kill everything that's not red pine, and it's going to have a lovely, beautiful stand, like to live in and to grow.
Oh yeah, he's just sitting there like, fuck you, you dumbass ferns.
Eat shit.
I live, bitch. So this is a fire adapted species. So if you're in the western United States, ponderosa pine is your like great fire adapted species. If you're in the southeast, longleaf pine is your classic fire adapted species. Longleaf pine actually in the buds it has these big water droplets, and so when it gets hot it'll pop and it'll put out like fire on the needles, but it wants the world to burn around it. You get grass stages and some stuff. It's crazy. Trees do crazy shit.
Evolved it evolved a sprinkler system.
Yeah, no, exactly.
Oh.
Unironically, yes. So
Yeah, nature is amazing.
yeah, it's some wild shit out here. It's pretty neat. I'm not gonna lie.
So
Okay.
science is freaking epic and based.
Oh yeah, the coolest. That's why it's on fire.
Mm.
So fire is a natural thing. We can see the landscape is adapted for it. Okay, next slide, please. Okay, not only is the landscape adapted for it because the Western United States is hot and dry, but also we have people. People are people.
Mhm.
Bastards. You can just say bastards.
They didn't fall out of the coconut tree. They exist in the context of etc. etc.
Yeah.
Of course.
So when we talked about them last time, we talked about them in the context of eastern forests. Now we're thinking about western forests. People have been there between 60 and 20,000 years. I don't have to take your pick. I'm not, an archaeologist. I'm a tree guy. So we've been here a long time. We've been influencing this climate for a real long time. It's just in like vegetation history for a real long time. And if you're a person in this time, you are lighting stuff on fire. Some of that is like for medicinal purposes. Like if you have like certain crops, certain plants that grow well, post fire, like blueberry, you're going to light that shit up every 1 to 3 years. So that way you can go out and harvest blueberries. Blueberries are nice and tasty. I like to eat them. They did too. They also like to eat the things that ate the blueberries. Looking at you, Smokey the Bear.
With my rifle cocked, yes.
Yeah, more like with your atlatl ready to go.
Mm. Oh, imagine how good it would feel to kill a bear with an atlatl.
Wow.
I have really very limited interest in bear hunting, so I don't care, to be real honest.
I don't
It's
know. You
just not
talked
my
a big
shit.
game about Smokey. You know?
Yeah, that's why I said limited interest. My interest is the one bear.
Just Smokey.
You have a kind of like Moby Dick Ahab situation here. You know?
Yeah.
It's like up there with riding the sandworm, you know?
You're like you're sizing up the bear and you see he doesn't have the campaign hat on and you're like, fuck this.
Yeah, no, that's exactly it. That's exactly it. Unless
No,
like
you
Smokey's
gotta-
little brother.
You gotta what boo
You
boo.
hate him enough, you're going after his family.
We're going cartel on Smokey.
Wow, you know you're going full. Of,
Jesus, I have to cut that.
Okay,
gotta-
all right.
you gotta-
using an AI targeting system to assassinate the members of Smokey Bear's family.
listen,
Yeah, we took out his Dendry. He's not going to be around for much longer. We got him, boys.
The Bear UN is
Only
condemning me. I'm ignoring him.
kill bears in uniform is all I can say.
God.
ACAB includes Smokey the
any
Bear.
bear of fighting age on
This is a
target.
those are non-combatant bears.
Good God.
Not
We
the Israeli
we
military.
might earnestly have to lose this whole bit.
Okay. All right. Well, ACAB includes Smokey the Bear. So take
That's
that,
true.
Smokey.
Mhm.
Okay.
Mhm.
So people are out there burning for, they burn for cultural reasons. Also, if you want to, play lacrosse like we see in this picture, or
Yes.
ball game's been, if you want to play ball game, obviously
I would
that's
love to play
Oh,
ball
wow.
game.
That
so
bit
if
is
you-
for Trash Future. I don't want to do it again
All right.
here.
Yeah.
So if you want to
It's
play
just a network
lacrosse,
of bits all transiting in a triangle, basically.
Yes.
It's another fire triangle except
Yeah.
with bits.
the bits triangle.
Mm.
So if you want to play lacrosse, you have two options for a field. You can find a nice meadow that will eventually go away and become forest, or you can take your nice meadow and you can just burn it once every 1 to 3 years and keep them damn trees out, and you got a nice lacrosse field.
So,
They want to
saves
use
you, like,
taxpayer. They want to use taxpayer money to burn down a forest for a ball game field. God damn it!
Moving the ball game team to Algonquin.
We gotta fucking move the teepees to make room for the ball game field. Come on.
The studies show publicly supported ball game fields are not worth it. Let the tribal land.
Yeah, so, I mean, burning the meadow makes sense. Saves you scything it, I guess.
Yeah, but you also have to remember,
Sure.
there's no reason to invent smithing here. You got all the shit you need. Digging sticks are the main way of getting stuff out of the ground. There's no reason for it. Looking back at some of the historical accounts, you have 6-pound lobsters that are hanging out at the beach.
Jesus, doing the gold germs and steel thing and backwards in reverse and being you got too much abundance and you never had to invent the scythe about it,
Yeah, basically.
Can't believe our team moved to the Conestoga because we didn't burn down our own ball game field.
Yeah.
just picturing lacrosse owners back in the day, the kind of
Well, I mean, this is probably more of a communal, so it's more of the Packers, version, where we get communal ownership here. That's again, the Packers are the only
commissioner won't allow that
the Packers are the only correct team to support if you are listening to this podcast.
the first colonists get to Wisconsin and they find a Native American guy there wearing the cheese hat.
Yeah.
And we've been killing bison and making cheese out of them. We don't know why.
What
It's
have
a
you guys
social
been?
thing.
What have you guys been doing?
Y'all heard of this thing? It's called bratwurst. I don't know. We just came up with it recently. We're trying it out. See what you think about it. Okay.
The Europeans showed us long span arches, and now the fucking ball game team wants a domed meadow.
Whoa, that sounds some Illinois or Minnesota bitch shit right there. The Packers play like God intended on a grass field in the open air. Come on. Jesus.
I've
Is
been
East Coast
on this
elite.
lacrosse shit since the days of hill mounds,
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So we have First
Has
Nations out
anyone
here.
tunneled into those mounds at Cahokia?
I
I
don't.
I mean, yeah, they have. They found interesting archaeology. Lots of evidence of a recurring theme of earthworks for stuff like this, which is once you do the main thing of temple on top of a temple on top of a temple. I have a plan for an episode about this. One of the things that you do is peripheral burials, where you just if someone important enough dies, you just dig
Stick
into
him
the
in the
mound.
mound.
Yeah, you dig
Oh.
into the mound horizontally or vertically, and you stick them in there in a little chamber that's otherwise going to be in the earthworks. It's really cool.
Well, that's cool. Yeah,
There
so
you go.
we got people out here who are burning for a number of reasons, and sometimes it's accidents, and sometimes it's wildfires or lightning strikes. But we know there's a lot of intentional fire happening, especially in the eastern United States. The western United States, you got looking back at the dendrochronology records, it's a lot harder to determine intentionality, because it's more fire prone. But in the eastern United States, where we have more rain and the leaf litter is a little damper, it's a little bit easier to determine intentionality. So we're going to say the eastern United States definitely burned intentionally. The western United States probably burned intentionally. This is where I have to be a scientist and say probably, but more than likely.
This is also a severe flaw with early Franklin episodes. Um,
Yeah,
is
I mean, you can kind of like you can get this wrong in a couple of directions, right?
Yeah.
Like you can be like,
Hey, we do that all the time.
yeah, well, this is the thing. I feel like you can kind of discount the amount of intentionality and engineering going on here, in like either the sort of ostensibly positive direction of being like, oh, this is like mystical, kind of like in touch with nature, absolutely kind of like freewheeling stuff, or you
Yeah.
can be like, oh, these people are like primitive and didn't think about this stuff, and instead you look into it and it's mostly like guys arguing
No.
about where they want the lacrosse
Cross
field.
team.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Next
where
slide,
do you want?
please.
Yeah, exactly.
I'll answer this question. All right, so here's the answer to your question, Alice. Or sorry, Nova. Sorry, my bad.
This
My
doesn't,
bad.
this
fine,
doesn't,
it's
this
fine,
doesn't
you're
look
good,
like
you're good.
this doesn't look like a fucking lacrosse field at all. Where are the
Right.
goals?
Right.
Where's
No.
where's the
We're gonna have to
parking?
put like a jar every
Right.
time someone calls Nova Alice. We have to put a dollar in.
Listen, I am absolutely relaxed about it. I'm transitioning from like an easy name to a kind of stupid out there name. You know, it's fine.
No, it's my bad. It's my bad.
No.
I'll do better. We got to learn somewhere. We're all learning and growing together. Okay.
Yes.
So here we have two forests. These are the same, basically the same forest. They're separated by a road. Right side of the road is burned. Left side of the road is unburned. This is in coastal South Carolina. I'm not going to say exactly where. It's a very unique place, and I'll just tell everyone who I am right away. All right. So if you want to set up like a nice place to hunt whitetail deer, where are you going to do it? Right? You're going to do it left or right?
I mean, obviously, I'm not gonna like hike through a big fucking like fern and like gunnera and all of
That's
that
a palmetto.
shit, you know? I don't
And,
know.
These are like are these the plants that like slice you up and
Oh yeah, they're also loud as shit. And like the only time you ever need to talk. Yeah, so here's a fun fact about palmettos. The only time you'll ever need to talk is when someone's going through a palmetto, and it's just the loudest thing in the world. I've been in places. So I've been in places similar to this where there have been air compressed 50 cals. They're not 50 cals, but they sound just like them going off, and you can't hear them over the palmettos. This is just the loudest
Jesus
goddamn
fucking
plant in the world.
Christ.
Yeah, it's the
this is
loudest goddamn
before
plant.
this is before Harbor Freight came to America and you could buy a machete for 10 cents.
Oh, you can't machete through this, man. You just gotta burn it. So this is
I
why
just-
we.
Meanwhile, you hunt on the one on the left, and you're playing fucking Call of Duty. You know, you're like
Yeah,
stacking
exactly.
up like deer.
You've got Subway Surfer on the phone. and
Ghosted
you've
on
got,
sticks.
like,
Yeah, yeah.
So this is how we can determine intentionality. We can just say, like, look, if you want to live here, you're going to burn this every 1 to 3 years. On the right is what happens if you burn once every 10 years. You get crepe myrtle, you get palmetto, you get all this shit.
So dense. There's so much of it.
Yeah,
I know that
there's a lot
sounds
of it,
stupid,
yeah.
but Jesus Christ.
Oh, I counted all of those stems, by the way.
Looks really cool.
That was terrible. The Yopon in there makes you want to die.
You got any
Also-
trees that kill you instantly in South Carolina? Just continuing our.
So going back to your keys episode, I actually had a run-in with poisonwood. You don't want to do that. I'm going to tell you right now, I had to go to the hospital and get steroids. It's a bad time. It's also a phototoxin, which, obviously you're in the keys, so a
Ooh.
phototoxin is the worst time.
It's not very good. Yeah.
That sounds
Yeah.
bad.
Yeah, no, it's real bad. It's real bad. And poisonwood, it's kind of this shitty looking tree when it's like doing well. So that's that tree you guys talked about, like the pigeons were eating. That's like
Mm.
really like poisonous.
Yeah.
And so like if you're just like clearing dead wood off a fence, you might grab it and not know that that's incredibly not something you should touch. And that's how I got into it. I was volunteering and shit. That was a bad time. Don't volunteer. That's bad.
It's like a lesson you learn in like forestry and the military. Don't fucking volunteer for anything.
Yeah. Okay. All right. So we know prescribed fire is. We know fire is happening definitely intentionally. Eastern United States, maybe more intentionally than the Western United States. Can't be sure. Probably a lot of intentional stuff in the Western United States. Next slide, please.
Oh, and then these fucking assholes.
Yeah.
Oh
yeah.
my god.
Be nice to the guys who wear necklaces with crosses.
No, don't do
Yes.
that. Execute
And
the
the thing
wholesale.
is, these guys are like all chances. Like it's like 50 guys who are like the fourth son on their shitty estate in Valencia, who have gotten like kicked into the new world to try and like, or disgraced for like one reason or another to try and make it big, and like one Jesuit they brought along who's like writing a book about how they're all assholes that he's gonna like send back.
But he's
Right.
also incredibly violent too. He's
Oh yeah, of
Oh
course.
yeah,
He's
he's
very
doing
willing
some
to kill anybody.
Real fuck shit. I just hate
Mhm.
the Spanish, man. I mean, I understand that like
Mhm.
you know the 2010 World Cup, whatever. I've said enough about it, but I can't stand the Spanish.
One thing I will say, right, as far as like colonial powers go, the Morian helmet here is stylish. Big
Oh, yeah,
fan.
it does go hard. Yeah.
I just
Yeah,
oh
I-
god,
actually, yeah, it is pretty
just
good.
wandering around with whatever 15 pounds of shit on my head. No thanks. I can barely keep a yarmulke on without getting annoyed.
This stuff's surprisingly light. Like I hate to say, this is one of the
Is it?
things where like reenactment and like experimental like archaeology and stuff like that is like really useful for this, because like you can build a decent approximation of a lot of different armors, and like people haven't changed a huge amount, so you can be like, this is what it's like to wear and like move in and stuff, and it's like honestly it's a really exciting time in the field.
That's
There's,
really cool.
some interesting people on Twitter you can follow about this. The names aren't coming to me at the moment though.
Dump them in the notes if you remember.
Yeah.
I'm interested in that.
I probably won't.
So
Okay,
for the
well,
listener at home,
almost.
I have in the notes here, I have Liam says some shit about the Spanish.
Hate him.
I should have. November says some shit about the Spanish.
Hate him.
Yeah.
I'm also willing to say some shit about the Spanish. I think a lot about the Spanish conquest of Mexico specifically. Also the Spanish
Horrific.
conquest of Britain.
Horrific.
Yeah, absolutely. Like this is an area of like history I come back to every like few months, and I like read some more about it, because it's like it's one of the harder things for me to imagine in terms of like an outside context problem.
Sheer
you know, to be-
depravity in terms of how you're treating human
that
beings.
too, but,
It was-
but also
Tremendously unfair, because on the one side you had one of the most advanced civilizations the world had ever known. On the other side, you have the conquistadors, who were simply small, greasy Spaniards.
yes, legitimately,
Yeah, pretty much,
you are like
dude.
you are like some guy who has gotten kicked out of Spain to Cuba, and then gotten
Right.
kicked out of Cuba to Mexico, and you stumble like dick first onto Tenochtitlan, like
Yeah.
the largest city in the fucking hemisphere, architecture the likes of which you have never seen.
Oh, and
You
will
You
never
think
be seen again.
This is
Yeah,
this is
and-
right for a
and you're
genocide.
like-
Yep.
And your dickhead boss, who is on the run from his boss, who wants to like deport him back to Cuba to put him on trial, is like, yeah, we're just gonna walk in and like make like we own the place. And you do. Like I
Yeah.
can't imagine.
What is the book whose name I'm forgetting, written by, I believe, a Jesuit priest about the conquest of
Oh,
Mexico?
you're thinking about Bartolomeo de las Casas.
Sure.
God, I don't remember what the fucking name of the thing is.
I'm sure he hasn't written too many other books, and he's probably not putting out anything recently. So if you can just spell
so,
that, you'll be
some,
fine.
like, recent bangers. A short account of the
The
destruction of the Indies.
Yep.
Oh,
Yeah. Again, if you know,
He's the one
yeah,
Jesuit who yeah. It's a Dominican actually.
Yeah, he's a Dominican, but good enough. Whatever. They're all the fucking same bunch of goddamn
Yeah.
papists.
yeah. I don't have
Piece
positive
of
things to
chalk.
say about the
Weirdly,
Pope.
this is the different thing about like De Las Casas is
I
that
just-
like the Dominicans are typically thought of as being the kind of like the conquest ones, and Jesuits are like thought of as being like, oh, we feel bad about this. Not always the case, often reversed.
It's amazing that you
let's
can
talk
just
about
show
the
up.
Sagrada Familia and why it's definitely going to get finished and why you have to
Pay money to go into an unfinished building. Fuck you.
Well, okay,
Yeah,
hold on. Well, we're still on the Spanish. The Spanish
for that,
Foreign
I'm
Legion.
gonna, like,
Sorry, Al. November,
No,
you can go.
it's fine. I was threatening to become Catholic just to outvote Liam on the religious
I was-
like
I was-
battle.
Yeah,
was-
do it.
Yeah.
I
You
love the
think
church.
Muslim God will be mad at me?
Probably, but who gives a shit? God's not real. Do whatever you want. Yeah.
It's amazing you can
oh,
show up with like 70 guys and smallpox and conquer
I have a joke for
civilization.
you. I have a joke for you. Let me
Oh,
tell
come
my
on.
let me tell my joke. Let me tell my
Okay.
joke.
So my mom told this to me, who had heard it from Rabbi Goldenberg. Rabbi, if you're listening, sorry. So a rabbi dies and gets to heaven, and he's swapping jokes with God. You know, they're telling all the fun ones. They're swapping jokes. They're having a good time. And the rabbi tells a joke about the Holocaust, and God says to him, "How can you tell a joke about the Holocaust? That's ridiculous. That's so insensitive." And the rabbi says, "Yes, I guess you had to be there to get it."
Jesus.
Maybe I didn't study enough Torah. Fuck you.
I mean, that's the like the Oven of Aknai thing, right? It's the like God intervenes in a religious debate, and they tell him to like fuck off because you know your job is to deliver the revelation. Now it's our job to interpret it. Don't fucking mess around with it. I always admired that story. Yeah. Anyway, the problem with you may be aware.
Spanish.
Yeah,
No,
the problem with-
the problem with
The
Catholics.
problem with
Catholics.
Spaniards.
Oh, we
Yeah.
actually we are gonna do the Catholicism episode at some point.
Yeah, and it's gonna be like me being like increasingly tempted. The thing about the like woke Pope, right, is that he's not woke enough.
No,
He needs
he's
to
not.
fucking do Vatican III because it feels like I can deal with the British government telling me that like I should like not exist in public and that I'm a threat to human dignity, but it feels like extra insult coming from the Pope because that guy doesn't have anything better to do.
Right.
You know?
I
have
agree with
like
that,
some
but I also
theories
think
about like internal Vatican politics. right now.
yeah,
But,
I
like,
I do believe that I want the Pope to issue a bull or whatever they do now that just says the Pope says trans rights, let it ride.
he would alienate the entire American church, but he's going to do that anyway. There's
He's
no
gonna
way
do it
he's-
anyway. There's no saving it.
It's
Yeah.
it's
we got like
legitimately
3
appeasement.
anti-popes in the U.S. Come on now.
It's
Yeah.
absolutely just appeasement to be like, well, I can kind of like hold this thing together. It's like there's no value in holding it together if the way of holding
No,
it
you-
together is
you-
unjust. You have to rip the band-aid off and say trans rights in
You're
Latin
sort of,
and
you've-
encyclical.
Yeah, you've been sort of in a damage control mode since Vatican II. I mean, at some point you have to
Fuck them.
You know,
Leave the church.
yeah.
Leave the
Look,
church.
yeah,
Fuck off.
exactly.
Leave the church.
Cast
Go be a
off these-
Protestant like you fucking
Yeah,
want.
these
Get the
fucking
fuck out of here.
Protestants, exactly.
The fucking Protestants. Get the fuck out of here. No, they should do fucking Vatican III. They should do fucking Vatican III, and from St. Peter's balcony flies a trans flag with a big ass crucifix in the middle.
Yeah,
Inshallah? Question mark.
Yeah.
yeah.
Yo,
I
fuck
don't know
no.
where I'm at
Get
religiously,
fuck-
man.
get-
I don't. I really.
how would
don't.
you like to be Jewish?
I don't know.
Yeah, that's fun. All right, you're Jewish now. Don't worry about it.
Well,
So on today's podcast about wildfire, we have now converted Alice to November to
November.
Judaism.
November, yeah.
To Judaism. We've now converted
Yes,
November to
okay.
Judaism. It's been a long time coming, but it happens to all of us eventually.
Sure.
So these motherfuckers show up,
Yes.
and they kill a bunch of people, both intentionally and unintentionally. Through disease, and obviously they got them fangs on them. They got them gats. They got them swords.
Yeah.
The things do not make as much difference as you think. It's the tercio system that makes the difference a lot.
Yeah, in the
what?
haciendas, we got
The
disease
tercio
that comes
system,
with them.
it means third. It's like the Spanish way of organizing an army, and basically it's like sort of an early precursor to the battalion. It's how the Spanish like kicked everyone's dicks in Europe and then like got to the Americas. Right.
Wow, we have like a small amount of organization in our army as opposed to everyone else.
Yeah, basically.
That's why
like,
the United States has the greatest fighting force in the world, dude, because we're slightly better
Yeah,
at
'cause-
like small group tactics.
My boy
Yeah, you
Carl
can-
Gustav. Let's wait, hold on. Let's give some respect to the Swedes one time.
No.
They
And
had
you
one
can
guy.
just
Don't talk to me about my
Unload a
own people.
prefab Burger King off of a C5
Greatest country
Galaxy.
in the
Just-
world, asshole.
what you're talking about when you talk about the tercio is less the introduction of the thang, right, and more effectively mixing the thang and the pike, right? Like that's the big difference.
Are you talking about girl dick?
No, I'm talking about like
the pike.
I'm talking about the arquebus.
Oh yes.
Okay, so the Spanish take over with the hacienda system. They kill a lot of people, just a lot of people, intentionally, unintentionally, and sometimes it mixes the two. What are you gonna do? You're doing colonization. It happens. What you gotta make some omelets without breaking some eggs. And in this case, yeah, you are gonna break a lot of eggs. That's gonna be bad.
Is the omelet is genocide?
I don't think you can.
I
Listen,
don't know how to get this back on track, guys. All right,
This is the
everybody
thing, right?
work with me
you
here.
You have like a sort of a Jesuit writing home, being like, I don't know how to make a torta without breaking some huevos.
Arguably,
Oh, boy.
arguably, over a long enough period of time, the indigenous peoples of South and Central America have won because they speak. They are the central, the center of
there's
Spanish
revisionist
culture.
there is revisionist history suggesting that like I mean one of the
Whoa,
like
what?
if you want to read like 7 myths of the Aztec conquest, right, one of the myths is that it ended. Like there are still places, and there's not exactly a shortage of them, where like this is still like an ongoing like conflicted issue as to whether or not a bunch of guys who speak Spanish are allowed to run the government, right?
A good friend of mine is he's of indigenous people's origin. He's from Juarez, but his family's from outside of Juarez. But he was so concerned about that heritage, and he didn't tell me about it until we were just blackout drunk on tequila. And that's when he told me about his indigenous heritage. So it definitely still is a thing in Mexico. But I am
you
a
wanna
white
talk
dude
about
who
race
lives in the
America,
mid-Atlantic.
race in Mexico is like even more
Wild.
like-
Yeah.
Yeah, but
From my very limited understanding.
Well, because like the different styles, right? Like Spanish colonists were very very keen on like taxonomy and like categorizing race to the point of like
Fucking genocide ears love doing it, man.
yeah, but like in a really like exacting way of like dividing up your like genealogy and stuff. And
17th century IBM punch cards for no reason.
Yeah.
This is,
I mean,
This
it
is
gets
why
really
you
good, but-
you should not
What was that, Nova?
do not
It's
use 23andMe.
Dude, fucking my aunt used 23andMe, the aunt we don't speak to. And I'm just like, I don't need to fucking. Oh, she's fucking awful. Mom, if you're listening to this, I hope her plane goes down. I fucking hate her so much, man. Listen. I'm willing to tolerate a lot of shit. I'm a very tolerant, patient person, right?
Yeah, I've said this.
Yeah, but you're mean to my mom, and I will burn you, and I will burn you alive. I will make fucking Increased Mather look like a pussy.
okay. Well, so
We're all doing great today.
So the Spanish take over. If we look at California, like 1759, because like
Nova, can
Yeah.
you drink some water for me real quick, please?
Yeah.
Thanks, bud.
because like the Southwest is kind of a motherfucker to walk through. It's a great time, now, but it's kind of a motherfucker to walk through when you're in steel plate and all that kind of
Yeah.
stuff, and you're killing everybody in front of you. So
And there's no park ranger station,
no, and hey, we're about to get to the park rangers. Don't worry about them. So they're in charge for a while there. They banned prescribed fire under the hacienda system because like Europeans have this super deep fear of fire, and I saw this when I was in Europe. It was hilarious to see because on one hand, I got some Slovenians and Italians who are just like managing like beech forests and high Alps forests, and they're super afraid of fire. And in the other hand, I got some Oregonians and Californians who are like, let's burn this whole shit down yesterday.
And yet the Europeans love road flares.
Well, this is the thing about the hacienda system, right? Is that like you come to Mexico, you colonize Mexico, and you try to run it the only way you know how, which is like Spain. So you're like,
Right.
well, what if we applied feudalism to this? What if this was farms? And
I don't know much about this. Does this go anywhere? I mean, I
Yeah,
understand.
it kinda works.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah, you got a lot of sheep out here. You kill a bunch of people. You depopulate like some really intense civilizations out here. Like the Pueblo people had some like really cool. They were on some cool shit, especially with the pinyon pine and collecting pine nuts. Some cool shit. Anyway, you kill them off and you replace them with you make them herd sheep and cattle. It doesn't really work that well.
That was
But-
my question.
Didn't,
Yeah.
Didn't the Pueblo people also sort of get got by warming climate?
Yeah. Well, that doesn't help.
It's,
Yeah.
I will say this though, introducing like sheep and cows and wheat and stuff like that does lead to the creation of the greatest cuisine ever invented.
Big
Mexican
Mac.
food.
I agree.
Tacos are amazing.
I
love tacos.
Yeah, this is true.
I
Yeah.
make my own tortillas. I want to flex on like
Oh.
all of the other white people
I
out
mean,
there.
This is the thing. If you
yeah.
get married to someone who's a weeb from Mexico, then not only do they take you to all the best like Mexican places, but also they like make their own tacos, and you have the big like cast iron fucking like taco press in your house. You know?
Oh yeah, I have one of those. Mine's from
Oh.
Colombia.
That's
Oh,
sick.
it's it's like easily my favorite piece of kitchen equipment. This fucking thing, it's amazing.
Yeah, we're gonna just like into tortillas. If you are buying tortillas from the store, you are a fool. You're a sucker. You've been taken by a scam. It's so easy to make your own tortillas. It is salt, water, and masa.
Yep. hmm
That's it.
And you put it in the big like cast iron thing, you squish, and it's just fantastic.
I buy big flour tortillas from the store because they're convenient.
Okay, we're gonna fix you. Right. Okay, we can.
I can do this.
making-
I can
I'm
do
making
this.
a
you
big
live,
burrito.
You
You can
live
fix him.
the
He's
next
fixable.
country over from Mexico.
America's really big, Nova.
You live in
Although,
both
again,
a
that's no
country and a
excuse.
city with a lot of Mexican people in it.
Yeah.
We are going to
Yep.
get you corn tortillas, and specifically like purple corn tortillas.
Look, I
I'm
got nothing
making-
against a
I'm
wheat
making a
tortilla. It just takes a little bit
burrito
of
is the
lard in
thing.
there.
All
Yeah, you
right,
just
I'll
need some lard in with your wheat flour. That's what the binding agent there is. Some lard.
I'm gonna take you to the Mexican grocery store by my house, and then I'll take you to the El Salvadorian grocery store near my house, and then the Costa Rica. They're all in a line.
And flour
Amazing.
tortillas are fine. Like I really don't have
I
anything
do-
against them.
yeah,
but
I
like
do
tortillas.
like-
You
I
can't
like
do
a
a
f-
burrito with a corn tortilla.
You're a
as
That's not
far as
true.
I
You
know.
just haven't made your
Watch
own
me.
tortillas. You're working with these like preserved things that are not good. You need to just make your own.
We are an hour 20 plus in. This is amazing.
Yeah, I was about to say.
Apologies to
This
Devin,
is
large-
why
we have-
you can't like do this on a day when there's bad news happening to me, because I will drink.
Oh
and then,
no. Nova talked to her friends for too long. Turn off the episode and suck my ass.
I've had a wonderful day. Just
So,
like, I'm sorry for you, Nova, but I've had a great day.
I've seen
This
that
is very
game
this is
also.
very cathartic for me.
I also had a very nice day.
I got some ostrich-like boots in the mail today. I had a great
from
day.
where,
I had,
bud?
Los Altos. It's a Mexican company. I am also a weeb for Mexico.
I think Mexico might be the greatest country on the face of the earth.
Mexico
I really
rips.
I'm sorry.
really-
I need you. I hate to interrupt. I need you to go to the Los Altos Boots website right now.
I'm doing
Oh,
this
it's
right now.
It's so good.
Right now.
It's so good.
I'm the best.
I'm glad
boots.
I gave the introduction about no tangents.
Yeah. No. This.
Oh, this is incredible. Okay, yeah.
It's so good.
Yeah, I need
Yeah.
some boots. I need some
Yeah.
boots urgently.
I think you need them from here.
Yeah, I do. I
Los
absolutely
Altos
do.
Boots. No free
Yeah,
advertising.
yeah,
Reach
fuck
out.
it. Fuck it. We'll endorse these. Yeah, I'll endorse these.
Oh, these fucking
Yeah,
slap.
The,
I want-
these
I
are
like-
thin like time toe. That looks insane.
These are-
actually, let me
These
endorse
are
something
these
else.
are some pretty good looking boots. I gotta say.
these
Yeah.
fucking
if,
slap.
if you're in the UK and you want to eat Mexican food, Santo Remedio in London Bridge is the best Mexican restaurant, bar none. Try the Baja fish tacos. Incredible.
Okay.
That
All right.
sounds
So back to the colonizer.
We're here on slide 11 of 36. We have
I'm trying.
established that Spaniards exist.
Yes. So the Spanish come in, they stop prescribed fire, kind of not all the way, because they don't really want to go outside of the hacienda because A, it's hot out there. B, the natives are not that friendly to you because you have killed most of
You're
their
doing
family.
genocide. Yeah, fair enough.
Yeah,
genocide.
yeah.
That I don't know why I fucking said it like that.
Yeah, like-
genocide.
They were living a pretty
Genocide.
cool life until you showed up and you fucked it all up for them. I mean, there was still conflict, but it was pretty all right. And now you got to work for this fucking friar who doesn't give a shit. So prescribed fire basically stops, and then there's the Spanish-American War that happens, and the U.S. gets most of the Western United States under the Hidalgo. Was it Hidalgo Guadalupe Treaty, something like that?
Sounds about right.
Yeah.
I really appreciate that California's flag to this day is like, what if we just did our own thing?
Yeah, we bought it from them. We definitely didn't just take it in a war. It's cool.
Hey, have you guys played Fallout?
I am a trans woman.
I just said, have you played Fallout?
Yes.
So there's the answer. Yes.
I have. Yes.
Nova has modded it till it's broken in several different forms.
I'm mutuals with Josh Sawyer.
Are you excited for the TV show or no?
Don't talk to me.
Okay,
I'm sorry.
after the U.S. gets most of the Western United States, we continue the ban of prescribed fire under the Acts for Government and Protection of Indians, because obviously First Nations people need to be protected. They haven't been managing this land for thousands of years and don't know what they're doing. So this fire suppression continues out west. All right, next slide, please.
That's like a whole philosophical enlightenment thing, is that the Native Americans have not been good stewards of the land, despite the fact that
Right.
they're the only ones who know how
Right.
anything works.
Also interesting that there's very little daylight between Spanish colonialism and American colonialism. In this,
Right.
Yes.
It's just what Funny Hat wears, right?
Right. So that's what we're about to get into. So you guys, this is a map of federal landholdings in these United States. And as we can see, most of the Western U.S. is held in federal land. A good chunk of California, it's 60% of Washington and Oregon are fed land of one sort or the other. And that's because this land kind of sucks ass, to be real honest. Next, give me a click.
Yes.
So we do High Plains Drifter because this
Great
is
movie.
Oh, fantastic. Say what you will about Clint Eastwood now, but man, could he play a Western? All right. So this land sucks. It's high plains desert. It's not good for cattle, but this is what we try to force on the land because Western Europeans they want to raise cattle out there instead of harvest white-tailed and mule deer and black-tailed deer and antelope and all this other stuff. We want cows.
Yeah, all the stuff
was-
that's possible to do with this land is completely orthogonal to our ways of thinking about it.
There was a cattle bubble at this time because there was supposedly a breed of cattle that you could simply say, you could just leave it on the high plains and it would be able to fend for itself. And you could assume after so many years that you owned so many cattle, and people were trading paper cattle that had
Oh
died out on the high
God.
plains.
Oh,
Jesus
for like
Jesus
decades.
This
Christ.
is the cow. This is legitimately the cow version of full self-driving.
Yeah, well, so
Yes.
this happens, and it turns out this place actually sucks to live in, and so nobody wants to live there. Even like when you offer it up, like the Mormons show up, but like come on, Bible fanfic only gets you so far. You can only do so much with that.
Yeah.
So it becomes federal land. Next slide, please. All right, give me another click. Yeah, there we go. So this MF shows up
Smokey's
right
birth-
here.
You were about to make Smokey's birthday wish come true.
Yeah.
With a 308.
By
you know?
dropping him, right? Yeah.
Actually, I have a
before,
7mm. It's not a
Oh,
308.
excuse me. Beg your
2,000
pardon.
pound unguided bomb straight to the face.
I named the first caliber that I thought plausibly could kill a bear. You know.
Welcome to my
Yeah, 308
J-Dam
would
gun.
work. I mean, just the 7mm is like 3 feet from me, so I'm looking out the window. If I see his ass out there, he's grass.
The B-2 bomber from the Simpsons Bear Patrol episode.
I mean, you can use a knife. The reason why the K-bar is called that is supposedly because a guy wrote in like frontiersman barely literate English to say he had used it to kill a bear.
Oh.
So
Barely literate, huh?
Yeah, isn't there like what is it, like it's not the Missouri, but there's like some kind of like, you get like Bowie knife, and you got like the Missouri big
Yeah.
knife shit. You got a bunch of big knives around, big knife dudes.
I'm a British patriot. Give me a Fairbairn Sykes and I will kill Smokey.
Yeah, them's words. All right, I'm gonna go to the bathroom real quick.
No, what? No, you can't. Okay.
It's fine. I can talk about Spanish people some more. So the
Please.
thing about
Did you say, where's the bucket?
do you ever see those Basque separatist like balaclavas?
No.
Okay, so Liam, I'm gonna need you to Google like ETA, like ETA, the like Basque terrorist group, and I'm gonna need you to go to Google Images.
Okay.
Because let me tell you, they had some fits. They were getting their fits
Oh,
off.
oh boy.
Yeah,
It kind of
right?
goes though.
It kind of goes off is the thing. Like the thing about Spanish people, right, is that they love they love colonizing shit so much they did it even within the Iberian Peninsula, right? And so even to this day, the Basque people labor under the yoke of Madrid's oppression. And you know the fucking this is not the only one. There's a couple of like Spanish separatist movements, and they're all justified. And
Oh yeah, shout out to my boys in Barcelona.
yeah, right. And like the Basques, like in ETA, they were not fucking around. Like they were fully like they created the first Spanish space program. Like
yes,
they
yes,
killed
I've heard of this.
yeah, we've mentioned it before. They killed like Franco's prime minister, Luis Carrero Blanco, by putting him in low Earth orbit.
Yeah, I have
He
seen
went
that
to
photo.
church. That's very Spanish.
I'm just looking at a photo of the.
Hard to be a Catholic fascist because everyone knows where you are on Sunday, etc., etc.
Well, so this is what I was.
Funniest things Justin's ever said, as far as I'm concerned.
One of the things I was getting to is you can tell the Spanish are not upset about their like colonialism because the Spanish Foreign Legion has never disavowed Franco. Like, I'm just saying, like
those freaks. Jesus Christ. So okay, you ever see like
you could just take him off the rolls. You could be like, well, like. Yeah, he wasn't. We don't acknowledge him anymore. We did that to like most of the guys who did the Sand Creek massacre in the U.S.
I
The
am
Spanish
reading the
Foreign
international
Legion.
links for the ETA.
yeah, ETA, yeah.
And I just love ETA was known to have had, quote, fraternal contacts with the Provincial Irish Republican Army.
Listen,
This
boys,
is my-
They were
boys
also
used
right.
to like go
Yeah,
on
they
tour.
were.
Yeah. No
But
question.
I do love this. The IRA received 50 revolvers from ETA in exchange for explosives training. Do you think it came in a gift box?
Aw,
like a nice
very
little
nice. Yeah. I mean,
With some like smoked cod in there, because the Basque are very fishing people.
Ooh.
A Harry and David box in exchange for your revolvers? Yeah.
I'm just thinking now that like, Spain has all these disparate separatist groups. They have a million ethnic groups. They have, they're only loosely affiliated on one flag. They had insane colonial ambitions. I think Spain may be the Russia of Europe.
Is it Russia? Sure. How about?
Yeah, sure. Fuck it.
Yeah.
I'll incorporate that into my belief system. Why not?
Yeah.
Just throw it in.
Yeah, the Spanish Foreign Legion is one of the funniest military formations going. I highly recommend having a look at their like parade uniforms, their dress uniforms, because they're still doing the like shirt open to the waist kind of thing.
The fucking
nice.
goat.
Yeah, Also, by the way, I will say
I would
one
like
other
a
thing.
Foreign Legion assignment where I get a siesta.
I'll say one other thing about the Spanish Foreign Legion. The minimum IQ requirement to join the Spanish Foreign Legion is 70, which is lower than a German Shepherd.
Yeah, that's disregarding IQ. That's the sort of stuff where my dad had clients who are intellectually disabled, and that's about the cutoff that the SSRI uses. From what I recall, no one yell at me.
You ever think about
SSI,
how
sorry.
Kyle Rittenhouse apparently like failed the ASVAB to like
Got
join the
under
Marines?
10.
Yeah, like
saw that.
12.
I saw that.
I took
was
the
like-
ASVAB to get out of school for a day, but I don't remember what I scored. It probably wasn't great.
I took some ASVAB sample questions, and like they're not that difficult. I mean, there
No.
was some stuff that was like technical knowledge, which I just didn't know because I
It's
don't
like, can
drive
you
a car.
rotate like gears in your head? Yeah.
Yeah,
Right.
yeah. Part of it is that. Yeah, I was just
It's
like,
like the Kojiati, you know. But
I was just like curious as to
I don't
what
know
it
what that word
was.
means. The Kojiati.
It was like an online meme test to see if you were transgender or not. Listen, right? Let me give you a sample ASVAB question, right? If there are
Please.
3 quarts of gas in a gallon container, how full is the container? 50%, 60%, 75%, or 80%?
You're joking.
That is a real question.
That's that.
What was the fucking trans test called?
The Kojiati, COGI.
I thought it was. I thought you
ATI.
said Kobayashi Maru. I was
Yeah,
like,
the Kobayashi
there's a
test.
test
Yeah,
out
that's what
there.
they-
Like
that's what
you
they're
are
bringing in
trans,
Britain.
but how much can you resist it?
Again, this is what there is in Britain, you know.
And see, this is why Kill James Bond is so important for us non-trans folks who want to be, allies, to be
Yeah, yeah.
kind of a lib. We
absolutely.
got to know this stuff.
Can you
I don't
do
know
me a
this stuff
favor,
otherwise.
Nova? And what we're
Yes.
gonna do is get your passport through,
Yeah. mhm.
and you'll move here, and
Mhm.
then because this is America and we have no rules about guns, we're gonna arm you to the fucking teeth, like a Wolfenstein mech.
I mean, the problem is, right?
Uh,
Like now, I kind of want to take the ASVAB, and the thing is, like,
I think you could probably take like a more or less complete one somewhere online.
yeah, and I just end up being like a sort of army
Score
officer because
a 99 and just like the recruiter's just like, all right, I'm gonna make so many exemptions for this lady.
I mean, yeah, basically, like there's a cutoff for like nuke school and stuff that's pretty high. But all right, I'm gonna do 12 questions on nationalguard.com.
Okay, so the U.S. Forest Service takes over a large chunk of land, and under Gifford Pinchot, he's trained in the European style of forestry, and as we have established, the Europeans are deeply afraid of fire. Kind of because their fire rotations in mainly beach-dominated stands are much longer, and their stands are not developed for fire, and also because they're Europeans. I don't like weird shit. It's got to be exactly how it's supposed to be. The Germans,
the whole continent had been like formally cultivated for so long as well.
Yeah. Whenever I go to Europe and whenever I talk to Europeans, I hear about their forestry. They're like, "Oh, the Black Forest is so big." I'm like, "Bitch, the Black Forest is the Rothrock State Forest is 40% the size of the Black Forest. What are you talking about? Get out of here!" Like that's
Yeah,
one
like,
Pennsylvania State Forest owns the Black Forest. Anyway,
They're like the fucking HS2 going through ancient woodlands, and it's kind of like, oh,
oh yeah, ancient woodlands. When I was in England, ancient woodlands. Yeah, this is Doug Fir, my guy. This is Douglas fucking Fir. Are you telling me somehow Douglas Fir got from the Pacific Northwest to outer London, like ring 4 or 5, like magically on its own? Fuck all the way off. Yeah, I'm coming for you, the UK.
Yeah,
You're right
and
to
you're
do
right
so.
to do it.
Okay, also,
Fuck.
who's about to catch strays
Sorry,
here
Nova.
is
you're good.
Walter Bitterlich, who was a founder of very important forestry in Germany. about 20, 30 years after the period we're going to talk about, huge Nazi fuck that guy. Like he joined the Nazi party in the early 30s.
Oof.
Oof.
March Violet.
Yeah, he wrote a war memorial about how he liked fighting on the Eastern Front and at D-Day. Yeah, that's a hard cringe. That's a real hard cringe.
Yeah, I loved being in Saving Private Ryan as the bad guy.
Yeah.
I liked the Battle of Kursk.
Yeah, being on the MG42 crew when the fucking like LV2s opened up, just like very satisfying if you're a Nazi, I imagine.
Yeah, so that's what a lot of European forestry is currently based on. They're getting away from that pretty rapidly because it turns out that doesn't work with climate change. But so Gifford Pinchot and the Forest Service are trained in this European model that's very standardized, very anti-fire. And so they input the 10 a.m. policy, which is every fire that starts needs to be up by 10 a.m. the next day. That starts in the 1920s. So we are starting to see fire suppression take over the West Coast as it's taking over the East Coast. All right, next slide, please.
All right.
Okay, so for the next 100 years, this is basically how fire is treated, and it's still treated the same way. These poor bastards get out there with shovels and Picmatics and Polanskis, and they put it all out. And that's what happens to fire for like until the mid-60s. In the mid-60s, we start to allow some wildland fire to go through and some fire to happen, but basically everything gets put out by guys like this. All right, next slide, please.
I got a 80% on the practice ASVAB, and I'm drunk.
Oh, nice.
All right. Well,
sounds
congratulations,
about right,
Nova.
yeah.
You're going to nuke school.
I think the cutoff for
Welcome-
nukes was
welcome-
like 90, so
No,
no,
doesn't
no.
matter. Welcome aboard.
Congratulations, you're doing railway core. I don't know.
Yeah, imagine how well I could do if I was sober.
So here's how we fight fire today. We now have a chainsaw
dig
involved.
a trench. You dig a trench, or
Yep.
like cut
Fire
like a
breaks,
big line.
right?
It's
Yep.
this is the thing. Like it's like more like combat gardening than anything else.
Oh, that's exactly
You got-
correct. Yeah,
You got
we'll look
the
at some in
big
a second here.
chainsaw. You got the protective clothing. You got
No
the
mix.
Oakleys. You got the
Oh, Oakleys are
Um,
not fire rated. There's no way those are Oakleys.
oh. You got something that's better than Oakleys.
Pit vipers are real popular right now. I love me some pit vipers.
Ooh,
I got to look into that.
fun.
Okay, so you can't put out most fires. Like you just have to put a line around them, as we were discussing, and just wait for them to burn out. So you cut this line around them, or you like try to guide them into a lake or a highway or somewhere they can't jump over, and you just kind of wait for it to burn out.
It's miserable work.
Oh
Like,
yeah, no, that
and,
shit
like,
sucks ass.
you have to like do like a very aggressive plant clearance while the thing bears down on you. If the wind changes direction, maybe you like die.
Yeah, it happens pretty frequently.
Sometimes you have to like parachute in there in the first
Smoke
place.
jumpers.
Okay,
Those
hold on.
dudes are
No,
out of
no,
their.
no.
Those dudes are out of
Even
their
if you
fucking
don't,
minds,
you
dude.
have. Well, if you don't, you have to fucking hike out there, which is worse.
Well, okay, hold on. I'm going to come for the smoke jumpers real quick here. So
Oh, please.
let's do the special forces meme where it's like, like Chad Forrester, virgin smoke jumper. Oh, I have to jump into the fire. Oh, I'm so cool and special. What if we just let it burn sometimes, or we manage the vegetation in a way that we didn't have to go out there and jump on, these crazy fires? What about that, though?
Yeah, jumping's
Are
cooler.
you suggesting that a kind of like macho firefighting culture leads to a lot of the same problems as like the same thing in every other emergency service?
Probably, yeah. The smoke
Yeah,
jumpers were
I-
invented in 1949, right after the end of World War II. You can imagine why.
There's some interesting military history here because, and I'm trying to remember that I think
Sorry,
this is true,
1949, not 1942.
that like specifically the only like segregated black parachute infantry regiment ended up doing this because no like white officers wouldn't trust them to fight in Europe or Asia, but they ended up being detailed to like do like precursor to this in the US during the war. So there's some interesting like black military history there on knowledge and belief. I could be wrong about
I
this.
don't know. I don't know the history of the smoke jumpers.
Macho firefighter culture has also done a lot of disservices to building things like better apartment buildings or doing things like traffic calming on streets and things like that. But
Yeah, the
that's a separate story.
555th Airborne Battalion, an all African American Army paratrooper unit, served as smoke jumpers to combat the Japanese incendiary balloon threat.
Oh, those were some crazy
Oregon,
shit.
Yeah, and
Yeah,
Washington.
that was some
State.
crazy
Yeah.
shit. Yeah, that actually killed the person because the guy went and like poked it with a stick, and it was like,
Yeah.
oh, that blew up.
And then I think the
Could
guy
have
who
killed
watched it
more, but for
apologized
these
and came
guys.
to Oregon
Mm.
and was just like, "You can kill me," and they were like, "What are you talking about? We're friends now. War's
Just the
over."
only entirely black airborne unit in like a segregated military. It's wild.
Yeah,
All right, so we're like halfway through. Let's keep rolling here, folks.
Sorry.
All right,
I'm not.
so Joe Kasabian is doing this, and it sucks ass. It's a tough job. People love it. I don't understand why. I've done a couple of fires. I hate it. It sucks.
I want it to suck more.
Yeah. So actually, fun fact about the Forest Service, they're grossly underfunded, and so they call all of their forest fires forestry technicians, where they're doing shit like this. And these guys are all, guys. I'm using this. Sorry, I'm a Midwesterner by culture, so I use guys as an inclusive term. This
You're
is
fine.
not.
You're fine. Don't worry about it.
Yeah. Okay. So these folks are out here and they're doing this part time. They work part time. They get paid like shit. It's real bad. We're not doing right by them.
Could be worse. You could be in prison and doing this.
Yep.
Yeah. Yep.
Could just
Okay.
you could just be doing this from while in prison.
Yeah, and you get paid cents on the dollar and risk your life just like everybody else. All right, next slide.
And speaking
Yes.
of like reforms, right? Typically, for a long time, I believe California has changed this now under like a lot of process. You couldn't become a firefighter after you got out of prison if you had been a firefighter.
I
Yeah,
believe
so-
that has changed, but you couldn't.
You couldn't work for the Forest Service or Cal Fire. Cal Fire now takes you, but the Forest Service still does not. The Forest Service has a lot of issues. I like the Forest Service; they have a lot of potential, but they have a lot of issues as well. Okay, so I included this specifically for you, November. I thought you would
Thank
love
you.
some air assets.
I do. I
Yes.
always love air assets. And the thing is, right, like one of the dream jobs, JTAC without the risk of war crimes, right? I get to sit on a mountainside and I get to call in like airstrikes on my own position with flame retardant chemicals. This
I've
is
done this. I've done
ideal.
this a lot in Workers and Resources Soviet Republic, which is a
Jesus.
game I've been trying to play, but I don't have a working mouse wheel at the moment, so I haven't been able to.
beat you to death with your own shoes.
So-
yeah, so my favorite fact about these, by the way, is that occasionally they kill scuba divers in the funniest
That's a
possible way.
rumor. That's a rumor that hasn't actually happened.
It's my favorite rumor, which is that potentially you could kill a scuba diver in the funniest possible way, scooping him out of a lake and dumping him onto a forest fire.
Congratulations, you're a smoke jumper now.
I would-
Involuntary
fucking-
I'm
promotion.
doing the like seal, like the seal trident thing, where I'm like hammering a smoke jumper insignia into his coffin.
I would also just like to say, November, this can be inclusive. Non-binary folks can die in these kind of accidents. They could be
Excuse
dumped
me.
onto a fire.
Excuse me, forgive me for assuming the gender of the scuba diver.
I do.
I believe
Go
I've
ahead.
seen this huge fucking DC-10 here.
Yeah.
In like the most insane video where it like
Oh, yeah, I think
dives
so.
into
Yeah,
a
yes,
valley
yes,
and then
yes.
comes
Oh
back
my
out.
Oh, and it's
yeah.
like what, like 100 feet above the ground, and you're
Those-
just like,
yeah,
oh,
like, look
shit.
at this.
these are easily right. Like I don't want to speculate about anything else. These are the coolest pilot jobs going, and pilot
Yes.
opens you up to a lot of cool career activities.
You can do
This
a
is
lot
the
of
best
things
one.
as a-
This is the coolest one you can do, and you can die doing this so fucking easily.
November, can you look to the bottom of your screen there?
Yes.
So this is called a helitorch. This is one way to light
I'm sorry.
prescribed
What?
fire.
Oh, look at it.
Yeah. Look, shit is on fire and it's on a helicopter. What else do you want to call it? It's a helitorch. They also have dyads or DADs. These are basically little ping pong balls that you inject with potassium and some other chemicals, and you shoot them out and they'll light on fire eventually. But this is a great way to get super dead. If you crash, you're not only crashing in a helicopter, but you're also crashing into a fire, and you're on fire intentionally. So there's some wild ass shit out here.
This is one of the funniest ways to take your life in your hands. And you're doing like public service, so it's
Yeah.
like you go to like firefighter Valhalla if you die doing
Right.
this.
Yeah,
So
I
you-
believe
you-
you do
you-
go to Firefighter Valhalla.
You are a
which
thrill boy, but for good.
I assume, which is where you are, drinking all the time and setting each
Reverse
other
buried
on fire.
Reverse fire?
Yeah, firefighter Valhalla is like a structure fire fully developed, but also you can get the beers in.
No,
Yeah.
these
And
guys
it's-
don't do structure
it's like-
fire. They do wildland fire. That's a different job. We'll talk about that later. But I would like to
Everyone
wild
gets their
life
own
firefighter
Dalmatian.
So there's a Dalmatian that lives next to me. It's a real asshole. Again,
They're high
everybody is
maintenance
catching
dogs.
strays today. I'm taking no prisoners. All right, so if we look at the top left, look how low that plane is. It is like those sugar pines, like
Hercules,
150
yeah.
feet tall, it is brushing the top of these. These guys die more frequently than you would want a pilot to die.
I should get my pilot's license.
Oh, you should.
Okay, so I
do
figured
wanna
we'd have a fun time with that. All right, next slide, please. Sorry, Liam, if you wanted to finish your thought, please do.
No, it's fine.
Oh,
I was
have seen
laughing.
like on the ground helmet cam videos of when one of these goes wrong and they just hit like a wildland firefighter crew with one of these, and it's just like 5 guys like spitting chemicals out of their mouths, like and like swearing in a way that I haven't heard anyone else do.
Yeah, it's not
I've seen
great.
like the Australian bushfire fighters, like they're in the fire truck and then like they have to put down all the covers because they can't get away fast enough and then it burns over.
Oh, well, those only exist because of like a couple of really bad tragedies where, like, as I alluded to earlier, the wind changed and just like overtook like crews like digging these lines.
We'll get there.
So now, now there's these like survival blankets which sometimes work.
My
Yeah, they're
favorite
not
thing
great.
is that my wife
Yeah.
occasionally texts me. She's like, "How long do you think it'll take?" And I'm just like,
15 hours, 15,
Yeah.
16 hours.
I was like, Nova's been
Those-
drinking. We're gonna be here for a while. Nova had a bad day. Let it go.
Yeah. Those fucking like survival blankets are like up there in terms of technology, where it's like, you want this rather than not, but like, not gonna make any promises.
This man's trousers are extremely high waisted.
That's how you know it's old timey.
Yeah.
The like sort of belt loops touch the nipples.
So this is what a lot of Western forests should have looked like. So we have a lot of ponderosa pine, which is a fire-adapted species. So
Settle
we
down.
have nice, thick bark. If we look up those trees, you're not seeing branches for at least 80 feet. Now this is post-thinning, so there were more trees in here, but pretty open. The initial surveys of this were done, and when they did it, they wrote that they could drive a Model T in between all of the trees. So we're looking at like, pre-European not European colonization, but like American management, like a very open forest. Because like Model Ts, I've ridden in one once, are not the most navigable cars. So if you can navigate between trees in a Model T, you're doing just fine on spacing. So it's a pretty open woodlands.
Gotcha.
Okay.
I mean, it looks sparse.
Right. So that's what it is on the left. This is pre like big management. Again, this is thinned, so there should be some more trees in there. And on the right, this is the same stand in the early 2000s. We can see we have a major invasion. I guess it's not really invasion technically, but we have Douglas fir moving in due to the overstory death of the ponderosa pine and overstory removal and fire suppression. So Douglas fir is one of these species that doesn't like fire. And so it has invaded, and we can see it's a lot more, our stand density has really increased from like 160 trees per acre, like to 600. And so if a fire blows through here, now we have a lot more stuff going on. Also, and for our botanists out there, you'll pick it up right away. We have a lot of cheatgrass in the photo. So on the bottom here, we can see this. This is an invasive grass species that burns at a much higher temperature than our native grass species. You see this with a lot of invasives like Melaleuca in Florida, burns real hot, like where our forests aren't ready for it. So,
oh, that sucks. You're like this perfectly evolved, like, sort of fire adapted species that's meant to be like, oh, all my branches are off the ground. I'm like adapted to a really sparse sort of situation. And then all of a sudden everything is full of like grass and other bullshit.
yeah, and
These aren't ferns.
Yeah,
What is happening?
You don't beat Doug fir like in a one, like ponderosa pine doesn't beat Doug fir on most sites 1-to-1. Like it needs fire.
Doug fir sounds like a sort of like 50s like quarterback.
Oh, you mean Pseudotsuga menziesii? Doug fir? Douglas fir?
Doug fir.
Yeah, yeah, my boy out there. This is number one. Shouts out.
You got
never
Doug
count
fir,
out Doug fir.
Douglas fir. Sorry, Douglas fir.
Doug fir and spruce pine.
Mm-hmm. Yep. It's actually not it's not a fir technically. It's a Pseudotsuga, so it's a false one.
I gotta use the bathroom. Keep going.
So we have these changes in our landscape. Now, these changes are handleable. We can handle these changes. It just costs time and money. So we have to go through here. We have to clear out the Douglas fir, and then we can regenerate ponderosa pine. This is handleable. It's fine. It's doable if you have time and money.
You have to commit tree genocide.
yeah, it's not tree genocide. These aren't supposed to be there. So you have to
commit tree ethnic cleanse.
You have to do
Forest
tree
management.
decolonization.
It's forest management. You have to commit to forest management. You have to invest in the landscape. So this is going to cost you a couple of $1,000s an acre to manage, and then you'll get this up, and you'll get ponderosa pine established. You can burn through there, and instead of like a couple of thousand acres, you spend $30 an acre to burn through it. That costs time, money, and effort, and the Forest Service has none of that. Private landowners have none of that. So we have, instead of the forest we have on the left, we go to the forest on the right. We go from our ponderosa pine stands to our Doug fir stands.
It's loaded down with fuel.
Yep, exactly. All right, next slide, please.
I'm thinking about my like little tactical fire triangle. I'm thinking that's a lot of fuel, and I'm also thinking, man, it's getting hotter and drier all the time.
The context.
I
hate it. You hate to see it. Okay.
You should have had some coconut trees,
Like once again,
that's a grass.
We've talked about this twice now. The coconuts are not trees; they're grasses. They're grasses. Okay, so we get assholes like this. These are the Bundys. These people don't believe that the U.S. federal government should own land. They also don't believe the state government should own land, but they exist because of the federal subsidization of cattle ranching. So you get like all kinds of assholes like this who just like don't want to fund federal land ownership in any way, because then they're like,
crucially, they don't want to do anything with the federal land either, because like it's not very useful to them.
Well, they want to run cows. So the Bundys had like $1 million in cow fines, and it is $1 a month a head of cow. So like to get the BLM so mad at you that they're going to fine you $1 million is so many issues. You have messed up so many times.
How many paper cows do they have?
The thing is, right?
Mostly paper now, buddy.
I would imagine so.
I circle back to my thing about giving the weirdest cops to the weirdest departments. I think BLM should have nuclear weapons.
Well, yeah. So the BLM eventually gets involved, and they seize these guys' cows, and
either BLM.
Yeah.
I mean, having a shootout with the BLM is like just a fun weekend out there. I mean,
you have to work to do that,
Yeah.
Like
the BLM shot a guy in this standoff. They seized federal land for weeks, and that guy got shot because he tried to kill some BLM guys. It took
didn't the FBI shoot him?
I don't remember who shot him, but it took like weeks of a standoff after seizing a wildlife refuge and having $1 million in fine to get shot. Like you had to do so many things wrong to have a problem here.
I'm giving it to the BLM because I support them more than the FBI.
As far as like the BLM or the FBI shooting a guy goes, I come back to the thing that I always say, which is I love when the bourgeois state defends itself against the right. I hate when it defends itself against the left.
Yeah.
I co-sign that.
I think BLM could maybe take out Black Hammer. I would support that.
The BLM SWAT team is gonna like descend on Black Hammer City.
I think that was on private land. I don't know. I don't care. That's not my problem.
I have no idea. Yeah.
So these guys are out here and like intentionally undercutting the Forest Service and other federal land managers by like underfunding them. We have the whole state of Jefferson thing.
Oh Jesus! Yeah.
Like Western Oregon and Washington wanted to join Idaho. So we got these like nutheads out here who only exist as cattle ranchers because of the federal government, but also hate the federal government. And then on the other side, we have, you get your classic hippies who do not believe the forest should be managed, it should be left unmanaged, which is, a racist and colonial ideal because people have been managing this forever. And so we have lots of people coming at the Forest Service. The Forest Service has been wrong in a number of ways in the past. I think they're doing their best. They're doing their best.
It was the thing I was saying earlier about like two ways of being racist about Native Americans, right? To be like, this is not managed, or to be like, this is managed so well that like no one else need ever manage it, right?
Hi, it's Justin. So this is a commercial for the podcast that you're already listening to. People are annoyed by these, so let me get to the point. We have this thing called Patreon, right? The deal is you give us $2 a month, and we give you an extra episode once a month. Sometimes it's a little inconsistent, but it's $2. You get what you pay for. It also gets you our full back catalog of bonus episodes so you can learn about exciting topics like guns, pickup trucks, or pickup trucks with guns on them. The money we raise through Patreon goes to making sure that the only ad you hear on this podcast is this one. Anyway, that's something to consider if you have $2 to spare each month. Join at patreon.com/WTYP pod. Do it if you want. Or don't. It's your decision, and we respect that. Back to the show.
Okay, next slide, please. So the last timer that we have to set up to understand the campfire here, which we are eventually talking about, and not just
like
Spanish.
4 hours in, yeah.
Sorry,
Yeah.
Devin. All right, so is our wildland urban interface. So people in California have to live somewhere. It is impossible to live in most of California if you do not make tech money. And even
Listen
when
to
you do
the
make tech money,
Oakland-
you don't
Yeah, listen to
live
the-
there.
Ghost ship.
Listen to the Ghost Ship Fire.
Yep.
Yeah.
Right.
Yep, yep.
Listen to earlier in this episode where we described how the most fabulous penthouse in Philadelphia is cheaper than a 2-bedroom in San Francisco.
Yeah, yeah.
Well, he lives in Oakland, but also
yeah.
then give us the pet house.
Yeah.
For British version of this, it's a real shame that I love London as much as I do because like your money goes literally 10 times as far in Glasgow.
So
That's insane. Good God.
Oh yeah, no,
people
it's
got to
wild.
live. People have to live somewhere. So they live in these canyons. They live away from people. Also, people have wanted to live away from people for as long as there have been people in cities.
And it looks nice. It's pretty.
Right. Well, that's the other problem. There's no defensible space in this photo. If we see this, we have some nice, beautiful trees right in that trailer park.
People
Yes.
like to like tree bathe or whatever the like Japanese thing is.
Yeah,
and, like,
forest bathing.
yeah, exactly. If you want to do the thing of like, if you want to be like a U.S. embassy and have setback, you know, you want to have like a big sort of like bare trench between you and the forest. It looks fucking weird as hell. People don't like it.
Right. It's weird.
This is
You don't move to the
also a-
mountains to like
this
be set back. Yeah. Sorry.
Yeah.
this is also a trailer park, which is the densest form of housing allowed in the United States outside of city centers.
Actually, I have a modest proposal, right?
Go
Which
for it.
is put the Forest Service under the Department of State because the Department of State already does a bunch of ways of camouflaging setback. Like anytime you see a US embassy and you're like, oh, we've got a really interesting like sort of architectural sculpture garden or something that coincidentally gives you like sort of truck bomb stopping distance between the perimeter and the embassy. Like just do that for like every town that's in a forest as well, and just have a fucking like Zen garden or something cultural, you know?
Yeah, we'll
Pretty-
get
pretty
to
sure you
efforts
could
about
just-
that.
You could just have
Mm.
you could just have better foreign policy, and you wouldn't need all of that.
So let's talk about that right now. So there's this thing. It's called.
All right, problem solved. Roz, you're Secretary of State now.
I'm thinking about my State Department moots in this difficult time.
So there's this thing. It's called the NRCS, the Natural Resources Conservation Service. They would fund fire-safe communities here, and same with some federal grants. There are 10 TSPs, technical
Excuse
service
me.
providers, in California. So for all those millions of acres, if you want to get fed dollars to help private lands become more fireproof, you have 1 of 10 people to talk to. So there's
Cool.
money out there to do this.
Wow.
It's just limited.
Sure.
If
Okay.
that isn't ever the U.S. government,
Oh yeah. Oh,
Yeah.
100%. We could do anything. It's just like, oh, but we don't give a shit about
because
them. Right.
like electing Ronald Reagan as president inculcated you with a fear of the bureaucrat.
Yeah.
right.
So I'm actually
Yeah,
becoming a
100%.
TSP right now. It's kind of annoying, but there's like billions of dollars I could get access to if I get that. It's annoying, but it's gettable. The problem is you will run into this when you work with private landowners. They are sometimes afraid of federal money. It's like, oh, the federales are going to come out here. It's like,
That make
No.
I could
I'm
track
from
that,
the
right.
government, and I'm here to help.
There's a lot of unspent federal money out there.
oh yeah, I'm trying to get
Yeah.
that. I'm trying. That's what's going to fund
Right.
my trip to the Baltics.
You know, this is when we need Mr. Lesko in here to let everyone know the free money you can get from the government.
Well,
in the money suit, yeah.
Yeah.
in other nations, you just have a government provided forester when you own forest land, and that guy or person comes out and they just like, he said you should manage the land. All right, we're gonna do it. Next.
Yeah.
All right. So there's none of that here. All right, next slide, please. Let's get to some dates and times.
Roz, you're up.
Yes. Great.
All right, we're not quite to Razi. We're very close though.
Oh, my bad.
Yeah. Yeah.
All right.
I'm on the next slide. Yeah.
Yeah. All right, so in the summer of 2018, we have a drought. Droughts are common in the West because of, it's a droughty place, and also like climate change is making everything worse. So as
Yeah,
we
and
can
specifically, climate change makes everything worse in the kind of all or nothing like model of rainfall. You get a lot of rainfall in no time and it floods, or you get no rainfall for months.
Yeah, as we can see, we're in that no rainfall.
Yes.
So if we look at our 100-hour fuels, those are going to be kind of our medium-sized logs, and the 1,000 hours, those are our big logs. They take, 1,000 hours to dry out. Everything's real dry for a long time. About November 1st, we should be seeing rain come back to this system. It doesn't really. We have drought for like months leading up to November of 2018. All right.
I think it's cool how I have the thing that like I changed my name to something that makes my ears prick up when you mention.
I was gonna say the same thing.
Year.
I was gonna say the same thing. I was just like, yeah, she's right there. Like, what's the problem?
Listen, I
She's
had a friend of mine.
listening.
I had a friend of mine recently announce, "Hey, me and my wife are like having a child in November," and I'm like, I don't remember that.
I don't think so.
I think I would have
Dramatic.
noticed.
It's a dramatic advance in science.
We
hands of the
finally did it. Yeah,
scientists.
yeah. Mm-hmm.
So 2018 will eventually go down as number 3 in area of lands burned after 2020 and 2021. That's how we're looking right now.
Oh, we can. I think we can break those records.
Okay, next slide, please.
Oh no, but we're sure gonna. We're sure gonna, buddy.
It's
gonna
probably
break a
inevitable
record
that we
today.
will. Ooh, yeah.
All right, next slide, please.
We're gonna go 5 hours and 38 minutes, thus
Here.
toppling Titanic.
Oh, hell yeah, dog. I'm here for it.
So, November 7th, 2018.
All right, so the National Weather Service puts out a red flag warning for the 7th through the 9th. Unfortunately, they will be correct. So if you are not a firehead, a red flag day means it's a really good day for stuff to light on fire. It's hot, it's dry, and it's windy. In this part of California, we have a seasonal winter wind called the Jarbo winds. Sorry, it's probably an H. It's probably like Harbo winds, but
Harbo, yeah.
yeah, I'm a white guy. What are you gonna do? We all have these problems.
Yeah.
So it's a pretty persistent wind that runs between 25 and 35 miles an hour almost constantly. Though they do reach up to 60 miles an hour, sometimes past that. Because it's canyons and shit, and weather happens, and climate happens. So
Sure.
we have these. It's hot, it's dry, it's windy. Now going back to our tactical situation, down to the wildfire level, we have hot, we have dry, and we have wind. These are not good. All right, next slide, please. So PG&E de-energizes a couple of lines in November 7th, but they do not on the 18th because nothing bad happens. It wouldn't honestly have mattered if they had de-energized the lines. The lines in this picture are not the lines in question because the lines that end up starting the fire are 100 years old and take a long time to shut down.
Why the fuck is so much of California's like electrical infrastructure built in like
Capitalism.
19? Okay.
It genuinely is very confusing considering that the general population of California, according to what I've heard from
California.
California,
According
according
to California.
California,
I'm gonna sound like wildfire. Yeah, I mean, I understand
these
California
folks
has
are
like
very, very concerned about overhead wires because they will not allow any electric trains in the state. But they also will not consent to having power lines buried.
I understand California has like an almost British level of like urban rural divide, right? But like it's like one of the biggest economies in the US. If it was its own country, hashtag NCR, hashtag Fallout New Vegas, then it would be like one of the biggest in the world. It would be in the fucking G20. And yet, for some reason, half the power lines, once you go out to like Solano County or like anywhere in rural California, were put up when like Ansel Adams was taking photos of them with a tripod.
Well, you don't get rich by like doing infrastructure investment.
It's like 480 volts. It's like you could bury this for like nothing.
Okay, so with these specific lines, we have a number of reported issues. In 2009, we got reported issues. In 2011, we have reported issues. In 2012, there's a tower that comes down. They know they have 900 problems on this tower and with this set of equipment. and there are at least 2 critical threats that they've been given, heads up from regulators. They are sitting on 600 days past of like, you need to repair this. They're 600 days past of like, yeah, we should repair that.
Yeah, so me with SA extensions. I just also by the way, like some random like Nazis are coming by with like rifles and like shooting at like substations and stuff, just to really spice things up.
Yeah.
And it's hot, and these lines are drooping. It's also windy, so we got potential issues, and they're not well secured because they're 100-year-old. This shit ain't ready.
You can grow the economy by providing good jobs to people to like repair and replace and inspect these wires.
Yeah, but consider shut up.
Yeah. Next slide, please.
In fairness,
Justin,
they were pretty good wires for 100 years ago because they were still running ground wire back then.
I mean, it turns out that it's not that difficult to run current through a wire.
Ross, this next slide you can open up on.
At 6:15 a.m., an issue is reported.
Jesus Christ.
So
by 6:33 a.m., a fire is reported by a PG&E employee. By 6:44 a.m., it's 10 acres, so this thing is flying.
Yep.
By 7 a.m., I'll keep going.
Wait, I have a question.
November 8th.
Is this just like, this is much faster pace than a normal fire? Like, is there?
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, wildfires spread crazy fast anyway, and this is like
well, it can also go really
is it like
slow.
fast even by that standard?
Yes,
because
crazy fast.
Because I'm just talking about from my own like knowledge of firefighting, or fires, which is very limited. It's just like I feel like I hear like, oh yeah, it's 50,000 acres, and I'm just like, I didn't hear about this yesterday.
Yeah,
or maybe just like, is there like a certain size of fire where it's just like, oh shit, we need to panic?
Well, so they catch this fire incredibly fast. So it starts around 6 in the morning, and they know about it right after it happens, because this is, again, a very rural area, very canyony, not easy to get to a lot of these points. But, within half an hour, we got 10 acres burning. And that's, like a lot of land that's on fire. So this is a big deal. Sorry, Roz, you were saying here.
Oh, what? By 7 a.m., a local firefighter gets eyes on it and calls for air support. That's the last time.
Mm-hmm.
For some reason, you know what this reminds me of? This reminds me of cancer, right? Like, in the sense that, like, obviously early diagnosis and like early treatment is the like one of the defining factors, but sometimes the thing just like spreads really fucking fast, really aggressively, and sometimes there is nothing you can do.
There's nothing you can do about it. I was thinking the same thing.
When it does do that, that's like as often as not a result of like environmental conditions and like occupational exposures.
Yep. So
that's why I do controlled burns on my body every day.
I mean, this is literally a thing that your cells do, right? Like this is absolutely a thing that like like programmed cell death is one of the things that.
Well, it's what should be happening in this forest. This forest should be burning once every 10 years, and it's not. We have a huge fuel buildup. Yeah, this forest did burn in 2008 partially, but not all the way. And also, it was 10 years ago, so we're within the normal fire cycle here. So we should be on fire. We should have reduced fuel loading, which is why we introduced the concept to begin with. It doesn't happen. So we have this huge buildup, and we have an ignition source, and now we got fire. All right, next slide, please.
This is like telling, like, Cal Fire or whoever, like, hey, I have this gun, and I've like pointed it at myself, and I've also like pulled back the hammer.
Yep. And now we are, as you can see in the slide, we have pulled the trigger. And so here's what happens.
Holy crap, a GIF worked on the podcast.
Yeah, I was saying,
this is the first time this has ever happened.
Come on now.
Yeah, normally Roz has to go and do some like voodoo magic.
Yeah, thank you for elevating our production.
Our art form.
Yeah.
You and Devin, the only two people to successfully do that.
Yeah, I'm trying to tank it single-handedly, and
within like 3 hours of ignition, the town's paradise burns to the ground.
Jesus.
Yep.
Yes.
No, it blows. And this ship went.
It takes a while to organize stuff on like even an emergent basis, and you just can't do it that quickly.
Yep. No, they know that it's coming, and it still lights up, and you can't stop it because these winds are going 20 to 60 miles an hour, up to 70 miles an hour. So they evacuate the town of Concau at 7:20. Doesn't matter because the fire is through there. They try to evacuate the next town by 7:23. Doesn't matter. It's through there. And these are narrow, mountainous canyon roads that the fire is flying through. Now, fire, when it moves like this, it's a lot of embers going forward. So it's not a wall of flame, but it will rapidly become a wall of flame, especially when it's driven by these huge winds. And that's why by 10:30, Paradise is on fire. On 10:45,
I mean,
most of the town is
it's
ash.
am I wrong and am I insensitive for saying that in this context, having not fallen out of the coconut tree, it is insane to build a town here.
Yeah, it's probably not the best. This is
Yes.
probably not a great place to be. With like the wires like this, like if you had like done like a smaller settlement, you hadn't had these ignition sources, it's not a huge issue. The town of Paradise has been here for like 100 years without getting burned down. So
Mm.
What was the reason the town of Paradise was
Mining.
founded? Mining. Okay, I was like either that or it's logging, in which case it might make sense, you know. But
Mm.
yeah, so
you
this
think
is
logging, you get some like clearance back, but
yeah, this isn't the best forest. It's Ponderosa pine and California black oak mix, so it's not the best forest for like
Mm.
getting big logs out of. But there's enough fuel in there to burn the town to the ground. So like this is within 3-4 hours, you've run 7 miles and you've burned a ton of acreage. Just like 20,000 acres are burned in 7
yeah,
hours.
while you have like firefighters still putting their boots on, kind of thing. I was
wildfire.
It's a wildfire. A
Wildfire.
Where
wildfire.
did Kevin go? I didn't hear what happened.
I believe he is peeing.
Ah, thank you. That was oddly soothing the way you said that.
I'm on like my fucking 6th glass of wine and I haven't yet, so skill
Ah,
issue.
well, there you go. I'm
Okay,
on.
yeah, I can't match you there, Nova. You give me 2 beers and I'm a fire hose.
Yeah, that's what happened.
Beer is very different. Beer is a diuretic. I'm the exact same way. You give me like 1 sip of beer, I'm pissing every 10 minutes for the rest of the night. Wine, on the other hand, is delightful.
All right, next slide, please.
Remember to drink water, buddy.
I'm trying.
Please.
All right,
thank
so
you.
here's what Paradise looks like. So they initiate evacuation.
Is that good?
It doesn't. Like honestly, you do the best that you can. It doesn't work out that well. We have small mountain roads. There were efforts to do fuel clearance before this fire started, and there were efforts to expand and like to do better fire like preparation before this fire started. Because all of these events that we're talking about with Western forests are entirely predictable. We've talked about them in forest literature since the 60s. So anyway,
It's interesting. I saw a documentary about Cal Fire and like also some like inmate crews because again, California uses incarcerated people to fight fires. And one of the things is like people with like isolated property that's like out of town, surrounded by forest, are like often reminded very forcefully by Cal Fire that you need sort of American embassy level of setback. You need to be doing this
Yep.
clearance. And routinely they don't do it and the house burns down and they get to watch it burn down from like next to a like Forest Service or like Cal Fire like fire engine, and they go, well, what the fuck, why is my house burning down? And they go, yeah, because it's surrounded by fucking trees.
yeah, if you're in this case, if you're lucky, you watch your house burn down. If you're unlucky, you are in it when it burns down.
Yeah.
And that happens to 84 people. 84 people,
Jesus
84, 85 will
Christ.
eventually be killed in this fire. So there is, the emergency responders are doing the best that they can, but this thing is just ripping hot. It's ripping fast. You can't stop it. And these canyons are not a great place for cell service. So you have a failure to communicate in a lot of places.
It's kind
because
of thing we end up with like police and like sheriffs and whatever, like going like door to door kind of thing.
That's what happens. Is usually neighbors going door to door. Luckily, this evacuation is largely successful in that we only see 84 people die, but 84 people do die in this fire. Probably at least 8 of them die while evacuating. So most people are killed in their homes or near their homes. People are escaping in everything they can, in cars, on ATVs and UTVs, and in at least one report jumping into lakes. It's real bad.
I remember seeing there was something when it was like a couple of years ago, Australia had like really bad wildfires. And I remember seeing people like in the water, like filming, watching like trees like burn to the waterline.
Yeah.
Um,
And the problem, and that happened in the U.S. in the Cloquet fire and up in the Peshtigo River fire. It can get so hot in some of those fires that it will boil you alive.
No thanks.
Or there will not be enough oxygen for you to breathe, or you'll be smothered by carbon dioxide. So being in water is not a savior. In this fire, there are at least 19 cases of burnover. You can read the National Transportation Safety Board about a lot of this stuff. I'm going to tell you right now, after having read it, you don't want to read it.
what is a burnover?
So it's when you're somewhere and the fire goes over the top of you.
Mhm.
Fuck that.
Yeah, it's real bad. All right, next slide. Let's look at a couple pictures of what happened here. Not great.
Yep.
Next slide.
Jesus
That's a house and a truck.
Christ.
I actually saw a really interesting photo essay. I'm gonna see if I can find it to credit it later on. But it was like some photojournalists went back to Paradise in the aftermath, and did like a photo essay.
Yeah, so we're gonna look at some of that in a bit here. All right, so next slide. So that's the fire in progress. Here are folks trying to fight these fires. Again, this is like 20 at this point. You're looking at like 20, 50,000 acres of fire in deep canyon country that's barely accessible on foot. Tough work here. All right, so we can see.
Can I say something absolutely superficial? I really like the Forest Service's green tenders. I think they're really cool looking.
I don't think that's the
Thanks.
Forest Service. I think it says city on
Is
the
it
side.
not?
I think it's a
Ah.
light blue. I don't know. I can't quite
It's
tell.
unreal.
Yeah.
No,
I like that you're,
that's Forest Service. It's got a Forest Service crest on the door.
Oh, you're right. No, you're right. You're good. You're good. November for the win
you
here.
got to drive a wide load truck in there at high speed.
Yeah, and so this is
There's no block of cars. It's just you and the wide load, baby.
to make this even worse. So, early 2018, this Paradise gets a grant to do fuels reduction work around the town that had been funded by tax dollars taken from sales of rural properties that had run from 2008 to 2013. And the representative for Paradise had celebrated the end of that tax program. So when you don't take care of your force, they will take care of you.
Mm.
Yep.
Again, sort of like pointing the gun at your own head kind of thing.
Right.
Sure.
All right, next slide. So by the end of the 9th, we have over 7,000 acres burned. Now this is a day. This is like a day and a half after starting. 7,000 acres burned.
It says in the notes 70,000.
Yeah. Oh, sorry. I meant 70,000. I said 7,000.
Jesus.
We've
Yeah,
been
you
going
said
for
7,000, yeah.
almost 2.5 hours. I can make a mistake.
Is it really only that long? Wow.
Any figure we say, assume it's 10 times larger.
Yeah.
Okay.
It was not the 9th, it was the 90th.
On the 90th.
The time has delayed. The sun is as blood.
Yeah. Well, as we saw in the previous picture, you don't really see the sun too much.
No, I can imagine not.
So this is why I don't do wildland fire. This shit sucks. So it takes roughly 5,700 firefighters, including, as we mentioned, inmate crews and crews from 17 states to get this under control. You got 600 engines there, 75 water tenders, 100 fire crews, 100 bulldozers, 24 helicopters, and 12 fixed-wing aircraft on site.
What?
17 firefighters will be hurt in this fire.
Like send everything.
Yes. And luckily, this fire is in November, so we have not too many other things going on. If this fire was 2 months earlier, it's much bigger because these crews are elsewhere. This is after fire season should have ended.
This is so whenever the next big one is
Oh,
that happens to hit
The
the
Len-
fire season.
the Lanai fire.
Oh,
Yeah.
in Hawaii. Yeah.
Oh,
You just burn
That
an
was-
entire town to the ground.
Yes.
Well, I mean, you do that here too, but you do that with like a lot more people in their houses.
I was genuinely surprised by that one because I didn't think that the fire would get that far past the urban forest interface.
Yeah, that one's largely driven by colonialism and abandonment of sugar plantation or like sugarcane plantations that fall into invasive species.
And he says that he's never going to come back on the podcast, and then hands us the perfect episode to come back on the podcast.
Well,
Yes.
okay. So people get hurt in this fire, at least hurt on the job. We know that these people are exposed to a lot more. Cancer rates among wildland firefighter crews are going up as they work with more intense fires and fires in the urban wildland fire interface.
I have a crackpot theory, right? You remember the 9/11 like firefighter settlements and stuff?
Yes.
And you remember how the FDNY has done like a very extensive job of documenting like, oh, this guy died like 20 years later based off of like 9/11 exposure or whatever. I suspect, and this is my like crackpot theory, that this is true of like more firefighting than it is not, right? And that like 9/11 was like an opportunity to capture a snapshot of the thing that routinely kills firefighters after the fact, like 20 years later, right? And it's just all the time because being around fire and like breathing in all that shit is really bad for you. And yeah, as you say, doing the same with not just trees, not just forests, but like also people's homes and all the stuff that they have in them. Probably not great
the
for you.
chemicals in modern furniture, modern insulation,
We'll get
modern
there.
building materials
Yeah.
are much nastier when combusted than they used to be.
You're not
We'll
meant
get
to
there.
breathe this stuff, and like even if you have the kind of PPE that's meant to prevent you from breathing and stuff, you're still going to breathe a dangerous amount of this stuff just by virtue of the fact that you need to like take it off sometimes once you like even when you're still on the fire ground.
Yeah, I
you know?
would point to the firefighters in question. You'll see that there's no masks on because you have to do this for as long as there's daylight and even into the dark. You can't wear a mask this long. You just can't do it. And hiking this elevation, in this terrain, you're just not doing it, and hence the elevated risks of cancer. The other thing is with I'm gonna run you over for a quick second, Nova. When these fires are burning at this intensity, so that's like the heat coming off of this fire, not the amount, the heat of this fire. So these fires historically had just burned leaf litter and just like stuff on the ground, like your pine needles. Now you're burning soil. When you're burning soil, that's a lot. There's a lot of not good things going into your lungs. A colleague of mine did a webinar recently with the folks at Chernobyl, and they were fighting fire out there last year, and the damage from those fires was like smoking 60 cigarettes an hour.
Fuck me.
Even when I was at my worst, I wasn't that bad.
Yeah, me either.
Say that's ambitious right there.
Can we convert
Yeah,
that
I
into tens of
mostly-
dip, though?
I spread those 60 cigarettes out over a day. I mean, I think it's bleakly really funny that right before COVID, America produced an HBO documentary about how the Soviet Union had this kind of like civilizational struggle against like environmental terror and was like, well, we would never do that. But also,
Well, that's our next episode.
yeah,
So
well,
yes.
I God, I think so much about the like scene in Chernobyl where the guy's like this kind of like feckless party bureaucrat is like, I don't know anything about governing because I used to be like the boss of a shoe factory or whatever, and it's just like, oh my god. Yeah, but anyway, I think about these firefighters a lot, right? Not just these firefighters, but a lot of people on the basis of being kind of casualties of this war that a lot of people, despite the most obvious evidence, refuse to admit that we're in. But yeah, no, I mean, there's so much of this stuff where it's like, person dies, often in this case, like heroically, and it's like obviously a consequence of climate change.
Yeah.
And then you sort of like, the thing that absolutely like fucking joker pills me, right? This is an insane sentence to say. The thing that absolutely depresses me, right, is you look at the way that the energy industry, particularly oil and gas, like speaks to itself, right? You read their trade papers, and you see guys getting like legitimate like standing ovations at conferences for saying like, we have to get away from this fantasy that we're ever going to phase out oil and gas anytime soon. And then you think to like people who like are dying because their houses are being like inundated, or dying of diseases that are like moving into their like biomes because the temperatures are changing, or like dying because they're inhaling some like guy's house. And then you think, well, what are we doing about this? And the answer is, we're not even acknowledging this. It's just like shuffled off onto like an issues section of the website. You can vote for a fucking Green Party about it if it means that much to you. And it's like we the amount of stuff, the amount of urgency that we should have about any of this is nowhere to be seen. And if you try to do this, if you try to like even talk about it, people will look at you as if you're insane.
I may be about to say something stupid, but based on the earlier slides in this podcast, this is also a regional problem, which has been largely solved on the East Coast.
No, it's regional, but it's also calibrated by climate change. Like
Yeah.
prior
Yep,
to the 2000s, this fire doesn't happen because this area is inundated with a seasonal monsoon.
Yeah, this is
Right.
exactly it.
yes
Like
and
for like so much of like our lives and like the lives of like our parents, right? We have skated by on this thing of like, we're in the like sort of like honeymoon period of this, and then we've ended up in this like civilizational like planet-wide war against like an adversary, like a self-created adversary of climate change that is going to like exploit and exacerbate every single weakness we have laid out for it, and this is one of them.
Yeah, so this leads us to what I mentioned earlier. I think the best carbon program you could invent is you fund the Ukrainians to do more strikes on Russian oil
Yeah.
refineries.
Yeah, well, yeah.
I agree with that on like 3 different levels. Slava Ukraini. Like, yeah, let's do it.
So as we can see, the fire, it gets wrapped up within, by the 22nd. Within a couple of weeks, it's wrapped up. It's contained. You get it out by the 25th. It gets out
I
by.
have a question, raising my hand. None of these trees around this little subdivision here, aside from the interstitial ones, are like burned.
Yeah.
What's up? What's up with that?
This
Is it
fire
just
is-
burning through grass? Or
It's burning so fast that it's not. So as we discussed with our fire adapted species, these are largely ponderosa pine, and
Yeah.
they have this nice thick bark. Additionally, it takes these pines 2-3 years to show damage. So there's more mortality that happens here. There's a lot of forest loss because of this fire, but a lot of these trees in this picture will survive because the fire is moving so fast. It's just, you need to heat this cambium to like 140-ish degrees on the inside, and these are fire adapted species. So that's why these trees survive. And you get the conspiracists about the Hawaiian fires who are like, look, the tree survived. Yeah, the tree survived because they're adapted to it. This fire blew through so fast, but the trees are adapted to fire. So we have some fire adapted species that we're looking at here. Excellent catch there, November. You get bonus points today.
oh, thank you.
I would also note that okay, we got no sidewalks here. This is a relatively modern subdivision.
Looking at the urban
Right.
planning, and you're just
Yeah,
thinking
yeah,
about
yeah,
how would I
yeah,
cycle in
no,
this?
There's no defensible space.
These are all
Yeah.
light timber, modern houses made of engineered lumber that's impregnated with, petroleum-based
God knows what.
glue.
Yeah. Mhm.
So all these things, you have lots of defenses against fire, like the drywall, like various fireproofing systems. Once they go, they go.
Yep.
I hate to say it, but like we found the only possible like plausible application for a lawn at this point. Like,
Yeah. And
No, that's not going to help you at this scale. Is the thing.
find a rock garden.
Yeah.
At least with a lawn, you can like put a bulldozer through it and dig a big trench through the middle of it.
Let me
Like,
step back into the Fed program here. So with the fire safe community, there is both, a mowed portion of the lawn, an unmowed portion of the lawn, scattered trees, but you have, setback as been discussed. You have some space like, all right, we got this ripping fire through here, but it can't light the house on fire because it's, mowed grass. I'm a very anti-lawn guy, but in these fire-prone communities, there is room for mown native grasses, which, as we can see, doesn't happen here. But honestly, at this scale, when we're talking about fire that has burned this hot and this fast, fire safe community is going to help us. But we're kind of too late here. Look, it's the whole shit is burned to the ground.
this is my house. This is my mile-long Japanese rock garden.
Also useful against truck bombs.
So
these more modern houses, these engineered lumber houses, which are almost everything with the platform frame and so forth, they're fairly fire resistant in that the fire won't start, but when the fire starts, oh boy.
Yep.
Mm.
Yep, it gets burned down, and then everything here is knocked down. This photo's taken a month, after the fire, so there's been a bulldozer through here. So ultimately, in this fire, 154,000 acres will be burned, 19,000 structures are destroyed, thousands are displaced. That's the impact. Those are our fire effects here. Damage estimates about $16.5 billion. Smoke from this fire will travel thousands of miles and expose most of the inhabited parts of California to some of the worst air quality they've seen in a long time.
Yeah, I
In that
remember all of my
smoke
like
sky,
friends in like LA and San Francisco being like, "Hey, it's cool that I have to wear like a respirator,"
Yeah, in that smoke, it's not just like ash, but it's this town. It's these people.
Mhm.
It's all
Literally.
the stuff that gives you like every cancer.
Yeah, we're talking
Yes.
heavy metals, dioxins, asbestos,
Cool.
PFAS. Oh, I play with those too. Don't play with those. Those are a bad time.
Mm.
In 22 out of 24 tested water systems, you find benzene.
Oh, what a great chemical.
Yeah, the chemical that gives you cancer instantly.
But the molecular structure is so pleasing, is the thing.
So it's a nice. Is it a ring molecule, benzene, or
Yes.
am I misremembering? Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, benzene is the hexagon.
Nice.
a friend of mine was just at my place. He got back from the Antarctic. He was a fuelie down there, and they carried buckets, 5-gallon buckets of benzene between the fuel stations and the benzene
Rice
disposal.
on sale.
The nice thing is you don't have to wear a respirator because winds are between 30 and 50 knots.
Cool.
Nobody look at the dead zone around the American Antarctic station.
Oh Jesus!
For those of you who don't know, benzene is like, it's if you could like put cancer into a
Mega
molecule, this is it.
carcinogenic.
Turbo cancer, yeah.
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 Mhm.
Because all the cells see it and say that looks like such an attractive molecule. You know.
Yeah, it's a ring molecule. I can bond to it on any of these little sites. You know.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, so you if you want to go back here, you get cancer. You're just going to get cancer in the water. Also in the water, you have PFOS and PFAS. It's like 20 or 12,000 different chemicals, but you got them in there because a couple of towns burned to the ground. It's
Mhm.
not good when your towns burn to the ground.
Yeah.
So Paradise
Yes.
went from a town of like 25,000 to a town of 5,000.
Fuck.
Jesus.
Most of those people are never going to come back, see the cancer stuff.
It's again, like it's not city destroyed by climate change. We will do the Katrina episode, but it is
Thank you, Nova.
absolutely town destroyed by climate change.
Yeah. All right. So next slide here. Okay. So our fire is so big. It's 154,000 acres. You got a lot of dead trees in here. This is
I do appreciate anyone wearing M81 Woodland God's plaid.
Oh, I know that Drake song, yeah.
Yep. also green helmet. Green helmet.
Mhm. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. You have to wear a helmet to work in these sites because of the overhead obstructions and problems. Also, these are most likely migrant workers, just based on what I know about planting crews.
Of course. It's all different kinds of extraction. Cool. Perfect. And that guy's going to get like fucking 50 different kinds of cancer.
I'm just gonna quick finish my planting crew thought. These planting crews are fantastic. These guys will put down just acres and acres and acres, and I've planted like acres on my own. And it's fucking hard work, and these guys will put it down like it's nobody's business. Like these planting crews are just insane, and they get paid like 12 cents a tree in the eastern U.S.
Ridiculous.
In the western U.S., it's a little bit more, but it's like cents and dollars a tree. It's insane. Look at where this guy's working. Yeah, I'm going to assume gender here. Look at where this person is working. They're working on the side of a mountain on a burned stand. This is like, slope is like 15, 30%. They're crawling through like down timber. They got overhead obstacles and overhead hazards. Like, this is not a safe environment. So you're doing this for like, maybe $1 a tree that you put in the ground. But this is what you got to do. Put trees in the ground. Are we taking a beer break or are we keeping
Yeah, I
on?
think so.
All right, beer break.
Hi, buddy.
Yeah. Hi, buddy. We're back. Cool.
Well,
yeah.
we don't know where Roz is.
I
Sick.
just not to interrupt, but like
Oh,
You're good,
please.
dog.
as a believer in like socialism or barbarism, the barbarism sucks so fucking bad, dude.
Yeah.
Like I
ain't
would
lying.
honestly like a break from this barbarism.
A lot of I was out. I've been trying to like. Well, now that the weather is nice, I've been trying to bike again. I want to do a lot better than last year, where I was just
Jeez.
depressed all year. This year, I'm like, I'm going to go biking, and I see a lot of people fishing in the Schuylkill, and it's like I always
Don't do that.
thought
Yeah.
that like those fish are probably not that good for you, right?
No.
Stay away from the benthic fish there.
Especially like right by where the refinery used to be.
Yep.
That's where we're doing our sampling. So just don't eat the
Oh, God.
benthic fish out of the Schuylkill, and you'll probably be okay. We were finishing up. So these folks are paid between 12 cents and $1 a tree to put trees on this slope.
Absolutely fucking barbarous.
That's between 30, 15 and 30%.
Why? This is my biggest problem, right? Is that like so much of what I want as far as climate change goes is a little policy I like to call climate Stalin, right? And people have their own interpretations of what I mean by
She's
climate
right to
Stalin.
say
What-
it, and I'm an
what I-
anarchist.
yeah, what I mean is like total like ideological mobilization of a society in favor of like fighting climate change and nothing else, right? But there have
Yeah,
been
there's
attempts.
a couple other ways the biosphere is falling
I think that we
apart, but-
discussed climate
Yeah.
Tito.
Yeah.
Like, that's cool.
Yeah. There have been attempts and like often very authoritarian attempts. I think a lot about the Great Green Wall in China, which is a reforestation effort to attempt to like arrest the progress of the Gobi Desert.
That's likely why
And
we have Asian longhorn beetle.
Yep, and
Ah,
it's
wow,
not going so well because it turns out that when you like incentivize not very thoughtfully people to like just plant trees, and then you get in such a way that you can kind of go to the UN or whoever and say we planted 1 billion trees. What happens is that you plant a bunch of monoculture, and then like some kind of weather event just kills 4/5 of them the next year.
A weather event would be lucky. Usually it's an invasive forest pest. But again, we're getting back to my work shit, and I'm having beers with my friends here. We're friends. We've
Mhm.
been drinking together
Yeah.
for 6
Yeah.
hours.
Yes.
We're friends here.
I have bad news. I'm a good hang. Usually you guys are asking me about work shit. My work shit is bad shit.
I'm not a good hang. I'm a bad.
What
hang.
you, the
You're a good
listeners,
hang.
don't
Shut the
know
fuck
is there's actually been a full 3 hours of this podcast we have cut out so far.
Yeah, it was just a succession of like slurs.
Mhm.
Okay.
I gave all three of these guys the tea.
If you
Slur
thought
plus.
if you thought what we said about the Spaniards was bad,
Yeah, the things you
were
said
right to
about
say it.
transgender women.
Nova. I don't want to get canceled.
You're fine. You're fine.
Okay. So the other problem with these restoration efforts is there are not enough conservation stock nurseries out there. So these folks are putting out there, they're putting like 1.0 nursery stock. So you have to go out, you have to collect the pine cones, get the seeds out of those pine cones, put those seeds into a nursery bed somewhere, and then raise them for a year to 3 years, 5 years, put them in the ground. So not only are we working with migrant crews who are underpaid and overworked, and they're doing like 6-7 hours or 6-7 days with 10 to 12-hour days, but also there are not enough conservation stock nurseries. Could all of this be solved with money? Yes. Will we solve this with money? So far, no.
Oh my god!
Next slide.
Bring back the civilian conservation force.
Yes.
With a mouthful of biscuit.
I liked that one.
In many ways, FDR was the original climate Stalin. I try to mute myself when I'm eating, but sometimes I have to eat with.
You're fine, bud. You're fine, bud. This is amazing.
The weird thing about the CCC is they made some insane decisions. Like if you look at like what they did in Pennsylvania, there's a bunch of Japanese and European larch, and you're like, why did you do that? If you wanted to put a conifer out, there were like 7 native species you could have chosen from.
It was the
besides
30s. I
larch.
said
Just
drunk.
vibes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
In the Midwest, they at least planted red pine.
they gave it a
Yeah.
shot.
No, like these are doable. The reason the conservation stock nurseries and the seed gatherers are gone is we've just disinvested from them. I
The
just
thing
read
is,
a
right,
New York
Isn't
Times piece
Britain
about
like
this, and it was
Britain
like we could just do this. This is just money. Like
the thing that strikes me about so much reforestation, right, is that trees being bitch made operate in an entirely different timescale from us, and one that's not very convenient to us having realized we fucked up extremely badly, like 15 years after we should have done. And so they take a lot of time to get reestablished and stuff, and a lot of money and effort. And
When I was very small, I was at the Vale Brewery in Richmond,
brewery.
Virginia, and I got to see one of those big ass tree
don't
moving
work.
machines.
like log forwarders, or
Yeah,
no, they dig the trees out of the ground.
they dig
Huh.
the tree out and they move it somewhere else. I forget if it was putting the tree there or taking it out. And I was so disappointed to realize 10 years later that
Yep.
tree
Oh.
died.
It's sort of so much of the like tree surgery stuff is if like on humans we were like we invented head transplant surgery and then just refused to accept that it didn't work.
Oh, I played
That's called
Wolfenstein.
grafting. Yeah, and then grafting does work. So like this is a solvable problem. We know how to do it. These problems are not limited to the West Coast. These problems are so bad here in the East Coast. Myself and other foresters are starting our own nurseries because you just can't get baby trees. You just can't. You can't buy them. Like they're just not there because we've just fundamentally disinvested
But
it from this.
I thought that the free market
Yeah, free market ain't good. See, here's the thing: is why I'm here is like the foresters. We are looking at that 100-year cycle, and the free market is looking at maybe the end of this quarter.
Yeah. Different
Yeah.
timescales.
Yeah. So it's not
One
that
that
this
can only
isn't.
be understood by like climate Stalin if climate Stalin was a kind of ent.
Yeah, I mean, you don't have to be like an unhuman being. You just have to think beyond the end of the quarter cycle. It's very doable. You just have to be trained to think that way. You have to work that way. We just have to get out of this capitalist colonialist mindset of it's going to like produce money at this rate.
All right. All right.
Now
we have to train a corps of climate monk warriors.
They're
warrior
called-
monks.
November,
What
they're
it-
called foresters. We have a title. We have a whole position. We exist. We have a society. Nobody gives a shit about us. We do this every fucking day.
Mm-hmm.
But what if you ran the forestry like a business?
Ooh, Ross Perot. Is that you, Daddy?
Yeah.
Honestly, it can make money. It's just like you gotta do other shit. It doesn't always work as good as you want. So now I do want to address like the monoculture stuff. Yeah, you got a lot of monocultures here because like in the Western US, you have like 7 dominant species. It's not like the Eastern US, like where we're like, oh yeah, it's a normal site. We got 15 species here. You got like 3 or 4 usually that dominate a site because these are different climates and different things. So like, yeah, it's more monoculture because that's what it is. So
If I'm not mistaken, even out here in the East, we're still more monoculture than we were before.
Yeah, to some
right?
extent.
Yeah.
Again, like you can only raise so many species in a nursery and work through so many issues. All right, next slide. All right, let's get
All right.
into the Xboxes here.
Oh
All right.
boy.
So between the
Yeah.
camp,
You know it's bad when like 3 guys in Tyvek suits have to stand around in what used to be your house.
Yeah.
there's at least one lady there.
I don't assume.
No, it seems to be
Yeah,
two
at
ladies.
least. Okay. So again, November is just out here.
Two female presenting
Doing-
persons.
doing
unsure about
Misgendering
the
left,
third.
right, and center.
Uh-huh.
Okay, so
Yeah.
PG&E will eventually declare bankruptcy in 2019 following the Campfire and the Ghost Ship Fire C previous episode. And
They shouldn't have been allowed to do that. They should have guillotined the executives.
it'll get worse in a second. All right,
Yeah.
so they're looking at $30 billion of fire damage from the Campfire and a couple other fires that they're found at fault for because of these lines that they know they have issues with. So they will eventually be fined for $25 billion, 13 of which go to the victims in the Fire Victims Fund. Half of that is cash and half of that is stock in PG&E. One PG&E executive, and November, hold yourself for this one, calls this an unjustified windfall.
Guillotine.
Yep.
3 simple syllables
Yeah.
that ease our way to the path of climate Stalin considerably.
You could just live in paradise for a while and tell me how that works for you, bud.
Yeah,
Drink the
no,
benzene water.
Go
yeah,
on,
I was
do
gonna
it.
say go like move buckets of benzene back and forth, and then tell me how you feel about it.
Yeah, you gotta do some manual labor, I think, or you choose.
I'm
the guillotine,
moving
you
to
know.
South America as the only continent that has any hope of putting guys like this in our lulag.
So by the end of 2023, because that's
Yeah.
when I wrote this slide originally, there were at least $19.9 billion in damages given out, or sorry, at least $99 billion in damages awarded, $11 billion given out to 720,000 claimants. This is across a couple of fires.
I mean, it's a decent number of Xboxes.
Yeah,
but,
it's not
like,
worth it. Shit ain't worth it.
No.
Yeah. And like you don't get $1 billion for filing this suit. You just don't get that. A lot of that money went to the state for putting the fire out.
Mm-hmm. And to
Yep.
the lawyers. And I say
Well,
this
of
as a former law student.
Insurance companies.
Okay.
As much as you try and like Aaron Brockovich this shit, you're also like diminishing the amount of like settlement.
Yeah, so there are a lot of
Or
people hurt by
fines,
this fire who
whatever.
will never see a dime from this. Like if you have an asthma attack and you live in San Francisco, but you have an asthma attack because of the ash and the stuff, you're kind of fucked on this one, bud. If you
Yeah.
get cancer from the asbestos that was airborne, but you live in Sacramento, it's just kind of the way it is. So
undeclared
it's not great.
war.
Yeah.
Out of that fund, out of the $25 billion fine, $11 billion would go to insurance companies and reinsurance companies, as well as hedge funds that own various investments into these things. A lot of money goes to the state and feds for putting the fire out, which obviously they deserve. They put the fire out. PG&E started it. PG&E eventually gets convicted for 84 counts of manslaughter and pays a maximum fine of, hold on for this one, $3.5 million. Nobody goes to jail, and by the end of
That's
Justice
so,
was
so like
served.
one of the more like interesting lectures I ever had in law school was I went to law school in Glasgow. The professor of commercial law there was a guy called Mark First. Very, very impressive. I only had a couple of lectures. But like I had a corporate regulation lecture from him. And one of the things he suggested was like start putting motherfuckers in prison. He didn't use the word motherfuckers, right? He just said executives. But like he was right. It's the only thing that like has any plausible effects. And even then, it's like easy to control for. Like you have to come up with some kind of effective sanctions on these people. Otherwise, it's just going to keep being like this while the situation worsens forever.
In China, they will execute you.
So,
And
see, this is always I was
this
like
this results in a significantly less amount of bullshit.
I have mixed feelings, right? Because a lot of the stuff about like in China they will execute you is like based on a lot of internal politics about who gets executed and who doesn't, right? But like
Right,
you do have to at least some of them.
You have to.
You gotta break a few eggs. Bring us back to the Spanish.
What's the thing the French said about admirals? Pour encourager les autres. You have to like execute a few of them to encourage the rest, right? Otherwise,
once you hit a net worth of $1 billion, you are fair game. Taylor Swift, we're coming for you.
In this case, you get convicted of 84 counts of manslaughter. At least. And this is, again, we're discounting everybody who is impacted in the future. We're saying today we know 84 people died. Everybody who gets cancer from this, it's not a fucking problem.
Oh my God. I think part of it is like just the kind of unattributability, right? Like if when you got cancer, if when you got diagnosed with cancer, you had a Call of Duty kill cam that showed you the fucking cell replication thing that caused your cancer, we would be like a lot less insane about this because we would be able to know, we would be able to say it is this specific guy wearing his like gray t-shirt who has like hedge fund opinions about like San Francisco local politics who is responsible for having given you cancer. And then you could go to his house.
You get to haunt him. Yes.
Tana.
Yes.
Like, but
leave that in. Leave that in.
Leave it in. Leave it in.
The people who are really deserving of punishment by society are, 45 guys in Texas with an IQ of 68.
So this is Spanish
they
Foreign
joined the
Legion.
Spanish Foreign Legion.
I got you, Nova. I got you.
Yeah, but
this is the thing. Like anyone can do my job, so long as you have a concept of the callback. You can
That's
do
not
my
true.
job.
You guys did like just an episode, and you guys were like calling out, like you guys on Trash Street, you guys called out ball game and like a bunch of like weird shit. And I was like, look, I'm an educated person. I have elevated degrees. I don't know what is happening here.
I don't have an undergraduate degree.
I don't believe you need to be high IQ to be a fan of ball games.
Those hips don't lie.
This is the thing. Yeah,
you imagine the fucking like the fucking Lenape ball
lacrosse.
game.
That's lacrosse.
People are throwing like
I'm the like Bill Belichick.
What is
of lacrosse?
I believe in you. That's just Belichick.
Oh
that dude's a
God.
fucking weirdo.
System.
I remember when they signed Jacob Hollister.
I was thinking,
we cheated every game. We had a good system. Don't worry about it.
Yeah, the good system.
On to Cincinnati.
The thing I gotta stress about this is specifically it's a thing Felix Biederman said that always stuck with me, which is that like podcasting is a very, very easy job that's difficult to do and that like very few people can do well. That's the thing I'm clinging to, because if that's not true and anybody can do this, I'm fucked.
No, you can't. Shut up. Speaking of which, let's move on. My wife is starting to get mad at me.
My wife is just giving up on me at this point.
Okay.
They should be mad at me. I'm holding this up.
It doesn't matter. You're lovely, and everybody loves you.
So by
my wife,
and think of
by
Milkshake.
June 2020, PG&E exits bankruptcy, and they're back as a functioning company. So
So bankruptcy has no consequences.
Right.
Only the katana
Has
has
consequences.
consequences. You can buy
The views
them off
expressed in
the
this
internet.
podcast are solely
They're-
mine, not my employers.
They're a utility company. They are a utility company. They cannot go bankrupt and not come back because no one would have electricity.
Nationalize
You would
them
not have
then.
the institutional knowledge. Obviously, you should nationalize them. We don't live in that society because of California
You bunch of
ideology,
fucking bastards.
as well as several other
I will
things.
drag this
This is-
podcast to an end, kicking and screaming.
You can't just
Probably not.
you cannot just nationalize it because we don't live there anymore.
Ross, I'm gonna break your leg.
All right, I'm
We
going to have
got
to bust
rid of
in my
that in
classroom management skills here.
1918.
All right. What did we learn here? What did we learn? So did this fire need to happen at all? No.
No.
Could we have prevented this? Class?
No.
We
No.
could have
Yes.
prevented this a number of ways.
Yes.
In 2009,
No.
we could have intervened on the wires. In 2011, in 2012, we could have intervened on those wires. We could have done any fuel reductions work at all in the West Coast. It largely has not happened since the 90s, and is still, Biden put a bunch of money into the Forest Service and fuels reduction. Still slowly getting underway because every time the Forest Service goes out there, they're getting their shit sued. Again, the Forest Service is not wrong the Forest Service has been wrong before, but you do have to do forest management. Okay, so
Chill.
people are doing stuff. Does this need to happen? Absolutely not. As we discussed with the Southeast United States, it has a similar fire regime, slightly different elevation, similar conifer dominance, and we do not see Athens burning to the ground like we saw Paradise burning to the ground. And that is because in the Southeast, you still have a prescribed fire culture that was largely held on to by the Cherokee and other First Nations, despite Jaboy, what was his name? The president, I just went right out of my head. I see his face. Andrew Jackson's attempt to eliminate the First Nations.
Boo!
The Cherokee tried to assimilate and they were punished hardest for it.
Them
for
and
it.
the other First Nations down there, like the Seminoles. So you have strong fire culture in the Southeast United States. And so where you have strong prescribed fire culture in these fire adapted systems, you don't have huge wildfire because you don't have fire fuels buildup. It's just gone. You just burn that shit off.
This is like the one metric the southeastern U.S. does better than anywhere else.
100%.
That and like Bucky's locations, like
When I was visiting my parents in Wisconsin, I saw a sign for Bucky's, and it was like Bucky's that way, 800 miles. And I was like, fuck, the South comes for us all. I will not go back. You will not take me back below the Mason-Dixon line, except for like when you pay me to go back, then I will go back. I do have a price. I'm very viable. It's very low. All right, next slide, please. I work in forestry. This is not a big money sector, all right? What do you want from me? Okay, so these are some pictures that I took yesterday in the field. So this is how you return fire to an area. So you cannot just go out there with a drip torch or with your hella torch and just throw fire at shit and expect it to work. So photo 1 is where we want the stand to be. This is a week after fire. We can see fire happen. We have good fire effects in here. Photo 2 is what this site used to be. We can bring this site into a place where we can burn it again effectively. We can, knock the maples out, knock these invasive species out in here. Ross, you see that green in there? You want to highlight that for me real quick? So that is largely Japanese barberry and the Flora rose. These are invasive. Prescribed fire, it's kind of mid at controlling invasive species. Once you have a stand established for fire, you can kill it. But if it's like 3 and 4, you can't burn that shit out. So, okay. So to get these stands in a place where you can return fire to them, then again, this is in East Coast context, you have to work on them. These stands are like if you had a fireplace and you have a butler who comes into the fireplace every day and they say, master, you're expecting a fire. I'm going to load the fireplace up across the Western United States. And this fireplace has been loaded for the last 100 years. And then someone goes and lights a fire. That fire is going to burn the house down. So you have to do fuels reduction work before you can start lighting fires in there.
Okay. You got to get rid of these big ass logs and this grass.
And fire doesn't get prescribed fire burns at too low of a temperature and too quickly to get rid of these big logs. So you have to go through, you have to masticate, you have to do hand stuff to get it out of there. This is all doable and achievable. It just takes money. to get 3 and 4 in a place where we can burn it, we have to masticate this, we have to spray this, and then we can start to introduce fire. We cannot burn our way through this. As you can see in 3 and 4, we tried to burn it in this stand, and that shit ain't work, dog. You can see the fire scarring.
Yeah, I can see the char
Yep.
on 4. Like, and it doesn't matter because
All of these stands are within 500 feet of each other. It's a matter of setting this up and doing fire. All right. So, next slide, please.
Oh, this is a fucking cool as hell photo.
This is Lessons of
Yeah,
Darkness.
so let's
right
wrap this
here.
up.
Ah.
We don't need to see this every day. We will until we continue to take natural systems seriously and invest in them. And if we don't, we're going to see more bad stuff, as I've been proven right by time.
You gotta divest from oil and gas, regardless of what the oil and gas industry
Yeah,
says.
we need
like
climate
now,
solid yesterday.
like literally yesterday, you need to do renewable energy, and I hate to say it, but you got to do nuclear. Actually, I don't hate to say
Yeah,
it. I
the
love
shit
to say
works.
it. Irradiate the
Yeah,
shit out
but
of people. You got to do it.
We're,
You gotta do it.
all. I think we're all big nuclear.
shit
guys,
works. What do you want?
Big nuclear guys and gals.
Yeah. And then invasive species just makes our fuel loading problems worse because they burn in different ways. They burn hotter and they interrupt the natural cycle and climate change. And it throws all of it into whack. You just throw the fire seasons off. You throw the climate off. You throw all this shit off. So if you could do climate change, I would say don't. You happen to be leaning on the big climate change button, I'd say, yeah, kind of move off there, bud.
Yeah.
Come over here. Let's have a beer.
Everything I read about climate change is like scientists worry about whether or not we've hit the tipping point for accelerated warming, but we don't know yet. And then a
Don't
bunch
worry.
of things about how
We'll find
maybe
out.
We stopped
yeah,
worrying a
yeah.
long
It's-
time
it
ago.
lit-
We stopped worrying so long ago.
I don't talk about how doomer I am on the podcast, and I probably won't.
Excellent. All right.
Yeah,
all right, so
No,
that's me done.
If we
Moving
ever
along.
push to do the fossil fuels episode, then we'll talk
Yeah.
about how doomer we all are.
Yeah, well,
Yeah,
that'll
by
be a
fun one, I mean. mhm.
All right, moving
well,
along. I'm done.
Thank you.
Sorry. The last thing is we can apply most of these lessons broadly. Like if we look at fire in Brazil, that's mostly human driven. Fire in Australia, again, it's mostly a fuels problem. The Quebec fires, that shit shouldn't have been on fire. Most of that is peat stuff.
He needs to send the cattle ranchers to the lulags.
some of these wildfire problems seem relatively easy to solve just with manpower.
Well,
And money.
And,
like
like,
so much of
money.
the Californian context of this specifically
Money
is
and
like
manpower,
all
you
of
know.
these like so-called technocrats refuse to do any of the obvious technocratic solutions for some fucking reason.
Well, you know, they want to. They all have economics degrees.
This shit burned
Hey.
down Nancy Pelosi's winery. You know, and if that isn't the biggest tragedy here, I don't know what is.
It's not my fault. I was stupid enough to get an economics degree.
Well, you know,
Get a
that's
criminology
kind of-
degree, and fuck if this shit isn't a crime.
And a math degree because I'm stupid.
Actually,
Hey, what's the
this is an
Math
interest.
is
This
good.
is like a live sort of like discussion in criminology, because one of the problems of criminology is that it was like largely invented to measure motherfuckers' skulls to see why they were stabbing people, and it's a remarkably poor way of understanding like not just crime but also harm. And if you want to be like extremely woke about this, as I do, you might, instead of criminology, call it zemiology, the study of harm, and start thinking about things like this instead of you know, like muggings or whatever, or as
Interesting.
much as I guess.
So I have just this deep, dark desire to work in the worst things possible, and unfortunately gotten myself involved in ecocide. And there's a lot of ecocide we could discuss with some of this stuff. But
depressing episode. We have a segment on this podcast called Safety Third.
Shake hands for danger.
Meet a guy you ought to know.
Hello, November, Liam, Roz, and guests.
And got it this time, asshole.
Got it this
and,
time,
and,
yeah.
and got him in the
thank
right
you. I've been
order.
here for hours, and I finally get some appreciation.
In my younger years, before my body betrayed me, I did a type of work
Heard.
known as lifting boxes of things.
Oh, don't do that. It's really bad for you.
On the plus side, this usually came with the benefit of driving a forklift,
Sick.
which is objectively fun as hell.
Yeah.
So I was mostly okay with. Yep, forklifts are fun. This story is about the first warehouse I worked in, and one which had boxes of the worst things to lift: rocks, or more specifically, flooring tile.
Oh, okay.
To give you an image of this warehouse, imagine a place with 25 rows of 3-story racking systems filled with 1-ton skids of flooring tile. These racks, in particular, looked, well, let's say a bit suspect, with the uprights being only about 3 inches thick.
Mm,
The uprights, I assume, are these
these-
guys here, yeah.
Yeah.
And while I learned, after I departed, that the Ministry of Labor had come in and ordered all the racks taken down and replaced, their abject shittiness was helpful to me, as you will see below. It was a huge building, to be sure, and one belonging to a company that had safety training that amounted to, well, try not to break anything.
At least put on
You're
the
not the boss
YouTube
of me.
video of
Yeah.
like Stapler Führer Klaus.
Whether that is something that happens in American warehouses.
Oh, I believe it. Yeah.
Whether this referred to bones or tile remained unclear. I had asked when I first started if we got hard hats, to which the foreman replied, "If a box falls and hits you in the head, the hard hat is only going to keep your face pretty for the coffin."
Aren't
All right. Okay.
wait, hold on. Aren't forklifts meant to come with like an overhead protection on the roll cage anyway?
You might be walking by the shelf and the
Saves
thing
weight.
falls on
Don't
you.
get out of the forklift. Stay in the
Saves weight.
forklift the whole time. Do a kind of like mecha thing.
The thing is, for the sake of your mother, you should look pretty for the coffin.
That's
That's
true.
what my mother has
You
told
don't
me.
want a closed casket.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So the answer was no. We did not get hard hats. Now, these
Closed
skids.
casket at my Muslim Catholic funeral. Muslim Catholic Jewish funeral.
Yeah,
Oh, we're multicultural here.
Yeah.
I have to find some people who like each other. Oh my god. Now, these skids came in different dimensions, and most were your standard skid size. But there was, however, one particular company that used long skids just to be fucking special.
Mm-hmm.
We had a specific bay layout for these, but because training was lacking, new operators didn't always know this.
Oh boy.
On the day in question, I was working on one of the aisles adjacent to a regular width rack. Unbeknownst to me, earlier in the week, a new operator had placed a long skid on the top level of the rack.
It's the one that keep the long skids in their special long skid quarantine area.
You would hope so, yeah.
Mm.
Now, this isn't necessarily a problem because the racks can hold one, brackets 1 as a numeral, long skid. But somewhat critically, it cannot hold 2. And due to the size, you won't be able to see the long skid from one side. While I was picking my order, blissfully unaware of the goings on in the aisle next to me, an operator was putting a long skid into the bay that already had a long skid.
Oh, hitting the critical 2 long skid limit.
There was no way for him to see the long skid from where he was, so I don't fault him at all for what happens next. I heard a creak and saw the rack in front of me move about 2 inches.
Mm.
So I ran, thinking the rack was giving way. This almost definitely saved my life, as the forklift on the other side pushed the long skid out of the bay, where it fell 20 feet and landed about 2 feet from where I ended up.
If it sucks, hit the bricks. Just start
Yeah.
running.
Just run for it.
Well, you got to hit the bricks or the bricks are going to hit you.
Yeah.
Yeah. Being a
Now-
Trans-Femme switch, like.
I could say I shit myself, but all I remember was numbness and detachment, so you wouldn't know if you shit yourself.
Yeah, it's something you find out later after the fact.
I put my order sheet down on my forklift, looked at the foreman who had come running, and said, "I'm going to the bar for a bit. I won't be in tomorrow."
Fuck yeah. Hell yeah.
I did end up going back to work there for another 6 months.
Well,
Bless hell yeah.
I wore a hard hat
Hell.
every day. And I guess my advice is to be very discerning about which warehouses you work in.
I mean, you do your best, but there's like
Yeah.
not a lot of warehouse jobs.
Well, you have to work in Amazon now where they will just
Yeah.
crush you deliberately.
Yeah. The
Um,
robot, like the humanoid robot, will crush you as part of its training program.
Yes. Love the show all. Keep up the good work. From Jim.
Thank you, Jim. Sorry,
Jim.
that you almost got crushed. Glad that you didn't get crushed.
Mm-hmm.
Hope they're in a better place now.
No one hopes. Jesus
Not
Christ.
an Amazon fulfillment center is the main
Yes.
thing.
Well, this was a paving, flooring fulfillment warehouse.
Amazon will sell you floor tiles, I'm pretty sure.
I don't think they've
Jeff Bezos didn't
dedicated
get to space
flooring
by
tile.
not selling you stuff.
This is a good point. Yeah, I'm halfway through the podcast. I had to go out and grab the mouse I ordered earlier today.
Attaboy.
Do you have a mouse wheel now? Do you have a functioning mouse wheel?
No, I haven't put it on the computer yet.
I'm gonna light you on fire. All right, that's
Forest.
it. End the shit. End the shit.
You're doing
End
a
the shit.
controlled burn.
End the
You're
shit.
doing a
Come on, end the
controlled
shit.
burn on the
Kevin,
podcast.
if
Come
the
on,
people want more Kevin, hey, if they want more Kevin, where can they find you? God damn.
I don't.
All right, cool. Anyone got any commercials before
There's
we
a
go?
thing in Philly that I will be hosting. It involves disaster movies. I don't have all the details for it yet. I will in the next episode.
All right, good night, everybody.
Wait.
What?
In the month of Play Brawl, we must plug Bunta Vista.
Yes, that's a good point. It is
fucking
Playpro.
good.
Yeah.
All right.
Bunta Vista
End it.
podcast.
End it.
This is the only podcast I
Let's
have merchandise from.
go.